saying the country on that, so you want to follow it, I'm sure.
It's really quiet, so might as well just get started. Looks like it's 9 o'clock. Welcome, everyone, to the Reno County Commission meeting for Tuesday, March 7th. I'll call the meeting to order. The second item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer by Pastor Ryan Ragosa.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know I'm not here to preach this morning, but I did bring my Bible with me. There was just one thing I wanted to read real quickly before we bowed our heads, just a little reminder of who it is that we're talking to. It says, "Oh, the depth of the riches both of wisdom and knowledge of God, how unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. For who hath known the mind of the Lord, or who hath been his counselor? Or who hath first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again? For of him, and through him, and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen." Let's bow our heads. Our precious Heavenly Father, Lord, we're so grateful and thankful, Lord, to be able to gather together today, Lord. I thank you for these men that have been put in this position, Lord, to oversee some of the things that go on in our county, Lord. But, Father, there are four things that we want to ask of you this morning, Father. First, it's forgiveness, Father. Forgive us for our shortcomings, Lord, for our mistakes, Lord. Forgive us of our negligence, of our time with you, and the things that we fall short in, Lord, because we're human and those things happen, Father. The second thing we want to ask for, Lord, is wisdom. Wisdom the way you gave it to Solomon as he asked you for wisdom to be able to better rule over his people. Father, we ask for that kind of wisdom in these proceedings. A godly wisdom, Lord, to do things right. Father, I pray, Lord, for strength as well, strength to be able to do what is right and righteous, even in the face of opposition, as I know that these people face on a daily basis, Lord. There are a lot of do's and don'ts, Lord. There's a lot of flack that is caught, Lord, for doing what's right sometimes, Father. But I pray that you give each of them strength, Lord, to be able to make the right decision for the people that they have been endowed to oversee. Father, I pray, Lord, also for courage like Joshua as he led the people into the land of Israel. Father, we pray that these guys that are here to make these decisions, Lord, the people that are here today to discuss things, Lord, will be done in a nice, loving manner, Lord. And Father, I pray, Lord, that you will give wisdom and guidance in all that we do. And we pray all these things together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. I forgot, Pastor Ragosa is from Soul Winners Mission Church. We usually put that in the notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Welcome again. I don't have any announcements. We'll move on to Randy. Did you have any?
No.
Okay. Move on to public items not on the agenda. Public comment. I know there's at least one. Please come up. State your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Jeff Strober. I live at 1200 West 43rd. Reno County is where I was born and raised. I'm retired and chosen to enjoy this retirement in Reno County because I love the sunsets, the pace of life, and most importantly, the people. The people of Reno County are amazing. For the most part, I found people to be very giving. For example, I know of a 6-year Navy veteran that gives back his time to our community. This man was providing service to our country on a ship off the coast of Lebanon in 1983 when the Marine base in Lebanon was bombed by the Palestinians. Dead and wounded Marines were airlifted to the ship he was serving on. It is because of each crew member performing their duties that this U.S. Navy vessel could function, providing services needed to save the lives of these wounded soldiers. This man now serves on a Reno County Advisory Board. Another good-hearted person in our community is a woman that has spent the last 16 years of her life working for a nonprofit organization that aids the disabled. This woman cares deeply about helping individuals that have limited mobility, people that are blind or have low vision, and others that are challenged physically. She cares so much, she's willing to give of her personal time and make these physically challenged people to have a voice at the table by serving on county boards, advisory boards. The last example that exemplifies Reno County citizens who care is another veteran. This man cares deeply about our community, so much that he has served or serves on a multiple of nonprofit and advisory boards. The boards he has worked with include Interfaith Housing, the American Legion, and Communities That Care, that's now Rise Up Reno County. Last week, this commission voted to have him continue to serving on an advisory board. These people have a few things in common. They're private citizens willing to give back to their community with their personal time without remuneration. They want to make our community better for everyone. Another thing they have in common is they're registered Democrats. Although you would not know that from looking at their applications to serve, because nowhere is it asked what party affiliation one associates with. These advisory boards are meant to be nonpartisan. Last week, there was a regular consent agenda which included appointing these and other members to county advisory boards. Commissioner Weitzel, you made it clear with your comments and your vote against the regular consent agenda that you do not want these veterans or the woman who is a disabilities advocate to help give a helping hand to our community solely because they're Democrats and they do not hold the exact political view as you. Thank you, Commissioner Friesen, Commissioner Hurst, for pointing out that these advisory boards are non-political and non-partisan in nature. People serving on advisory boards, regardless of what party they affiliate with, pay their bills, pay their taxes, and pay their insurance. They keep their lawns mowed, their cars washed, their houses maintained. In short, they're responsible private citizens willing to give back to our county. I too am a proud Democrat. In fact, I serve as the chairman of the Reno County Democrat Central Committee. Some seem to lack the knowledge of what Democrats in Reno County stand for. You are all welcome, as anyone in Reno County is, to come join our monthly meetings and see for yourselves who we are versus what some misguided people would want you to believe. If you attend, you will find that the Democrats of Reno County can be described as wanting fairness, seeking truth, justice, and trust. We believe in the strength of family and the strength of our community. We are an inclusive group with compassion and love, supporting the equity of all. We started this meeting today with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the American flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With liberty and justice for all. It said if you cannot see the middle from where you're standing, then you're standing way too far off on the side. And finally, to close, I want to share what a military veteran, the community volunteer, one of these community volunteers shared with me. An eagle needs 2 wings to fly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Groberg. Is there anyone else here for
Doug Smith, Mayor.
Mr. Smith, Mayor of Arlington?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm here on behalf of the city of Arlington. We're a small community, but we are rapidly growing. We're constantly having houses open up and people calling in, asking do we have houses, not only from California, Denver, back east. I mean, we're growing, but we just want to keep growing. We had at one time that you guys had talked about keeping the ambulance service there. We haven't heard anything else about that. So we're curious, are we still going to keep our AMS office? Is that something we're still going to do? Is that still going to be a thing that we can tell people, hey, we got that. We got our 2 restaurants. We got a cabinet shop. We want to keep growing. And that'll be another good selling point for us. Another thing is that due to the fact tornado season coming up, we just found out one of our sirens got hit by lightning. So we got to have that replaced. So there's a possibility I might come ask you guys, hey, what do I need to do to get those systems back online? I mean, we are still part of Reno County. We might be a small part. Some people think there's nothing outside of Hutch, but hit 61 and go south. We're there. We're not going away. That place has become my home. Yes, I grew up in the South, raised up in Michigan. And this is now my home. And I am very proud of the little community. And I'd like to see it continue to grow, despite whatever goes on there. If you want to grow with us, we got our arms open. And you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Smith.
Thank you.
Mayor Smith, can you give me your phone number? Can you email me your phone number? I'd like to visit with you after.
Okay.
You have my email? I can give it to you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Getting hold of Adam before he leaves.
Mayor, you might talk to the emergency management team that's in the back here, Adam, about the siren. And because it's public comment, sometimes we're not prepared to answer your questions directly, but I'll make sure that the points you've made are taken up by the county.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, does the commission have any additions or revisions to propose?
I have none.
Commissioner Weitzel?
Yes, I'd like to motion that we move 6B and 6D out of the consent agenda. I'd like some discussion on those. And seeing that Seth Dew is here today, I'd like to add the request that he be about his testimony that we received it via email on HB 2390 to the agenda.
I had those here.
Was it 6, like Bravo?
6 Bravo and 6 Delta.
You want to do those separately?
Yeah.
Okay. So Commissioner Weitzel moves to take 6B and 6D out of the consent agenda. I think we can say discussion of. I think we can put those as, if approved, we put those at the bottom of business items. Is there a second on that?
That was 6D and 6E, is that
B
correct?
is in
6
Bravo.
Bravo and 6 Delta.
Oh, 6B?
And Delta.
Okay.
And I will say that Patrick is looking into something, but consent agenda items are supposed to be unanimous consent or something that we all agree on. And so I know most boards I've served on, we haven't had to have a vote to remove them out of the consent agenda, because if we don't all agree, then, that's not consent. But, so I would appreciate a second until Patrick can look into this at least.
Preliminarily, the goal of consent agenda, and so I hate shooting from the hip because
Yeah, and sorry, I just found out about this yesterday, and so I just asked him about this today.
I need to get my Robert's rules and have it up here with me. But consent is uncontroversial items that aren't going to be discussed, and I think there is some support for the idea that if anyone wants to move it from consent, it should go on to business so it can be discussed and just voted on by. But then once it's on the main agenda, it still just gets a majority vote like any other matter. It's just a question of how much discussion something's going to get.
I don't mind talking about it. I'm happy to second it if we want to discuss it. So would you like to, is there something, would you like to explain what your concern is on 6B?
Oh, sure. Rather than canceling these county warrants, I would like to propose that we turn them over to unclaimed property, because this is money that we owe people, and just because they haven't claimed it, I don't know, my opinion, we can turn it over to the state as unclaimed property, and then, if somebody finds a check, a year later or whatever, then they can go through the state and still get their money back.
Randy, are you prepared to talk about that today?
I know a little bit about it. Basically, there are options. You can send it to the state for unclaimed property. That takes a little bit of a process by county staff to make sure we follow all the guidelines to get that up to the state. And then the people would only be able to get that money if they knew it was at the unclaimed property. So if they're not responding now to the notices that we may send, they're not going to see that unless they just happen to randomly check for unclaimed property. So that's, and Donna had this on the agenda for the discussion, but then have a resolution. She would then notify people, publish it, and then on the 28th, there would be a resolution to adopt it. So, but she was unable to be here today.
Well, it might be better just to table it, but I guess if we take it out of consent, maybe we can talk about that.
And then on 6D, I'd gotten with them on both of these items. On 6D, there's one piece in that agreement that I believe is unconstitutional, and so I'd like like us to consider to strike that from the agreement as well.
And Chair, Commissioner Weitzel asked me about that. I wouldn't mind, I guess from my perspective, I wouldn't mind doing it on business so that we can not include one of the provisions the Planning Commission asked for is a little bit or a lot bit more detailed than a Planning Commission recommendation should probably be. That's the one he's referring to. So I would support just making sure when you guys do the motion to, if you guys approve that, that you do it without that provision for the record.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there other discussion to move these to the business items 7E and 7F? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst,
I'll vote yes, just for discussion, but 6B, I remember.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes. Commissioner Weitzel has a second motion.
Since Seth Dewey's here, he's asked about, we were given an email that he's asked about testifying on HB 2390 in Topeka. And so I'd like to add that to the agenda, so that way he can talk to us about it and we can have public discussion about that.
Commissioner Weitzel has proposed item 7G. Mr. Dewey, are you prepared to speak on that today? Is there a second on the motion?
I'd second.
Second by Commissioner Bogner. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. That'll be 7G. Okay. I've got a abridged version of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I'll move to approve that.
Moved by Commissioner Parks. A second? Second by Commissioner Weitzel. Discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item 7A is an update on the Reno County fire season. The Moishar is here. Chief Beer is here as well.
Morning, Commissioners. Adam Wise, our Emergency Management Director. With me today is Chief Beer. He's a fire chief for Hutchinson Fire as well as District 2. So this topic seems to come up every year, and then it comes up again after our large fires. So some of the large fires we've had, including the Highlands Fire and our latest one, our Cottonwood Complex, the Board of County Commissioners actually directed me to come up with a mitigation and coordination for wildfire plan back in May of 2021. We met with several individuals for that coordination and mitigation of wildfires. It included everyone from the Kansas Forest Service, USDA Rangeland Management, Agriculture Extension Agent, county and city planners, Hutchinson Fire Department, Reno County District Attorney, and Reno County Sheriff's Office. Throughout those meetings, we discussed several ideas for coordination and mitigation of these large wildfires. Some of the ideas we thoroughly discussed and explored included zoning, education, tax incentives, fuel breaks, and then ultimately the new burn resolution and enforcement of that resolution that the Commission adopted back in January. Once the plan was completed, we met with the Board of County Commissioners in a study session last year and outlined our findings. One of the things we talked about is how to find money for fire mitigation. And to date, the only mitigation dollars that we were able to find were directly tied to the Cottonwood Complex. To qualify for those mitigation dollars, it's a very restrictive grant, which means it has to be defensible space to an occupied home. So your occupied homes here, it's the space immediately around it. Fire breaks or hinge points, the clearing of land to give us a break for the firefighters, did not qualify. So what we did is we went through some of the high-risk areas, north of Hutchinson, west of Hutchinson, east of Hutchinson, and identified over 600 properties that could benefit from some sort of fire mitigation that would directly qualify as defensible space for these grants. We mailed out a survey to each one of these property owners and asked them to mail that survey back, email us, or take a survey online. And to date, we've only received 38 responses from those 600 property owners. Of those 38, only 24 of them said they would allow any sort of mitigation work on their property. And of those, we plotted them on a map, and they would not create the fire break or hinge point that we would need to really impact the fire season. So moving forward from that, with approval of Board of County Commissioners back in October, we applied for a community wildfire defense grant. This is part of $50 million that's given to various states throughout the U.S. And what we asked for is to create a community wildfire protection plan, or CWPP. What that plan would do is they would tell us what our wildfire risks are in the county, and it could qualify us for future mitigation work. We haven't heard anything back from the federal government, or none of the recipients have been announced, but I'm not confident we're going to receive that grant. So what's that come down to? Mitigation's expensive. It's very challenging, and it's unbudgeted. If you look at what the Hutchinson Fire Department's doing, they're burning ditches, and it might seem like an easy first step for the county, but for our volunteer districts, it's not. It's very labor intensive, and it's challenging to find a good day to burn those ditches. If you look at what the Hutchinson Fire Department's doing, they started all the way back in December looking for a good day to burn this year, and so far they found one good day. So being able to do that with our volunteer districts is nearly impossible right now. Reno County Public Works, it's kind of a bright spot for us right now. They're doing a really good job mowing ditches. They're keeping the ditches short for us, which is good. But we would like it if the townships would follow that same practice and do a better job mowing those ditches as well, and clearing some of the cedar trees a little bit further away from the roadways. I think that could be a benefit for us. Even if we found mitigation dollars to start these activities today, I'm going to tell you it's not going to be immediate change. It's going to be a problem for several years, and it's going to take a significant amount of time to really change what we've been doing here for so long. In addition, there's going to be some property owners that just don't want to comply with the new regulations. Even if it's zoned, they won't want to apply, or they won't want to comply with those zoning regulations and won't follow them. We see that every year with our burn resolution that's in place. So I passed out a sheet to you guys. It's the wildfire risk by numbers of structures in each fire jurisdiction, and it's also broken down by townships as well. So what's not on there is the low-risk structures, the low-risk acreage, but you can see there that it's not just a Hutchinson Fire Department problem, it's not just a Fire District 2 problem, it's countywide. So if you look at Hutchinson Fire Department or you look at District 2, there's a big population density there, and that's why you see so many structures in that high-risk area. But the most very high-risk acreage in the county is actually in Fire District 4, and that's in excess of 40,000 acres. So I know I just passed those out to the commission this morning. If anyone from the media or anyone else wants those, we can produce those for them. I will say that Reno County IT did some amazing work for us, and they were actually able to identify every structure in the high-risk areas on a map for us. We're not going to make that map publicly available, but we do have that. But these are the structures and acreage in each community. And we'd be more than happy to go out to any home and do a wildfire risk assessment with them. Currently, the Kansas Forest Service, they use the Southern California model to talk about wildfire modeling or model the wildfires we have in Reno County because our fuel is that volatile. The closest fuel load that we have in Reno County mimics what they're seeing in Southern California at this point in time. So I'll tell you, unless there's a major intervention done by property owners or they start caring for their land a little bit differently, we're going to simply be in a wash, rinse, and repeat cycle. We're going to see this every year in, year out. We're going to continue to see these large fires until there's some major intervention taken. Chief Beer or Travis for you.
I can't say it any better than that. We are just one day away from another disaster. Simple as that. Until changes, these recommendations start getting implemented, we're one day away from not 36 homes, we're talking hundreds of homes. And it's real. And I guess my challenge to you is that we had 6 or 8 different agencies, professionals, sit down for the last 9 months and gave you recommendations. These are the professionals that are out in the field that do this stuff every day of their life and gave you the recommendations. We're talking planning, zoning changes, we're talking all the stuff that are going to make changes if we're going to address the true underlying issues in the county. Otherwise, what Adam said, it's basically rinse and repeat. We are doing everything we can. We're doing the educational stuff. We're trying to burn the right-of-ways off on these key hinge points. Even we burn the right-of-ways off, there's one thing with our mitigation burns, we're never going to know how many fires that we didn't start from a cigarette or a chain dragging or whatever down the road in them areas. You know, but it gives us something to anchor off of and to work with. And the wildfire season too, I just want to bring up too, it used to be just in the spring. Was a talk of wildfire season. It starts 6 days after the first frost in the fall. That's when it starts. So it's pretty much sometime in October all the way through green up here in the spring. And so that's our true wildfire season that we're dealing with nowadays. I think just the city of Hutch went on 154 brush fires last year, if I remember off the top of my head here. And so most of them never make the news. We're fast. We get on them right away. We try to contain them to under 5 acres. And we do a pretty good job with that. And that's purely our response time with that. But on a 50-mile-an-hour wind, catastrophic conditions, low humidity, it's a new game. And we've seen it last year, we've seen it in 17, and we will see it again. The next big one, when we get a north wind, we're working with the state parks. We get a north wind coming out of the state park, crossing 43rd into the Spyglass, the Prairie Dunes subdivision, the golf course area. It's going to be catastrophic. And we're doing everything we can to try to mitigate that and try to work with, we're hand-tied to working with the townships, the county, and the state parks as far as mitigation work. That's it, right now. And so everything I hear from the homeowners that I talk to, that come and talk to me, they physically don't have the money to maintain the properties. And the second thing, it's a big business in this day and age with just hunting on a property in Reno County. Either you have somebody you know, it's a family, relative, because 90-some% of the property is leased out for hunting of some type. And people want that type of resource. So it's a valuable income to them too, and I get that. We're not asking people to mitigate and cut down every single tree on their property. We're asking these people to maintain 100 feet, 200 would be great, but 100-foot perimeter around their home. And that's maybe saving this tree, but cutting down the one right next to it. And so we educate people all the time through my community risk division. They're out there helping the homeowners that want help, and we'll continue to do that. But things are not going to change in the near future until these recommendations are implemented countywide. Questions?
Well, I appreciate your efforts on burning the ditches. That's just a minute start, I understand, but it is helpful. I would say one thing with regard to townships, after being on a township, that you're correct, the funds aren't there. And that's where I personally believe that these townships don't have enough funds to, with the high cost of fuel, high cost of maintainers. At some point in time, I hope that some of those townships decide to do an intergovernmental agreement between, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 townships, so that they can afford to employ someone to be full-time, and then can have time enough and money enough to buy a good mower. A lot of them have mowers and tractors, some of them don't. But if they could just go together and use those funds, and if you grade one township roads one time when it rains, and grade the other one after it rains, and back and forth, I think it's a win-win situation that will help you with regards to mowing, as you mentioned, the township ditches.
I will say one thing for clarification here too. One question I do get, why don't you burn in front of my house? That's the number one question I probably get from the citizens out in District 2. And what we did, just so everybody's on the same page, we had the GIS department take 20 years worth of wildfires in Reno County here, and the larger ones, and we actually put them on a map and started overlaying things. And we could actually see where there's key pinch points and how history repeats itself. And so they cross the roads in the same area, they do the same thing with the certain winds, and so we got these key areas that we burn off. A typical road is roughly 30 feet wide, and in a 30, 40, 50 mile an hour wind, that fire jumps in no matter what we do. So if we can burn out the right-of-ways, we have roughly 80 feet to 100 feet to work off of anchor off of that, and hopefully catch that fire from crossing the road into the next block and stuff like that. So we're just not out there randomly burning ditches and doing stuff like that. There is a science to that madness in a way, so.
But you made the point that the people that would be protected aren't actually grabbing a hold. They're not answering your surveys, they're not allowing you on their property, they're, at some point, you need some cooperation to do anything.
That's one of our biggest challenges out there, is a lot of these high-risk areas are on private property. They don't want to cut down their trees, or they don't have the means to take care of their property. And we don't have the resources to go in and take care of it for them.
Well, there again, is government responsible for private property too? I mean, you know, there's two sides to that thinking.
And I agree with you too. It's where do we draw the line? But I'm also going to tell you that unless there's some major intervention taken, we're going to continue to see this cycle over and over.
There are many programs that are out there, you know, whether it's a third party, it's a chipper truck or whatever, that the homeowner can cut some stuff, drag it to the curb, and it once a Saturday, a truck comes through a subdivision or whatever, and they chip it all up and haul the tons of stuff to the landfill to help the homeowners remove it through grant stuff. But the grants are tough to get to, and there's typically a matching fund of some type to any one of the grants. And so that's going to be, you know, once a grant does get approved, it's going to be up to you guys down the road here is, you're going to put the grant funding, the 25% or 50% on the homeowners, or are you going to put it on, you know, it's a county issue, county problem to help justify. The old planning stuff here too, we ran into the Cottonwood Complex fire with the dead end roads back out there on Victory, Palomino, and stuff like that. You know, the acreage too. There's a lot of people that are moving from the city to the rural areas on, what is it, minimum 5 acres? Is that what it is? 5 acres of land and they want to have, no disrespect, they want to have a goat and a horse and stuff like that, but they don't have the mower equipment to maintain their property. If you look over Reno County 40 years ago, just 40 years ago, look at everything to the north, east and stuff like that, what is it? It's all pasture, all grazed off. There's hardly a tree around as far as a cedar tree and stuff like that.
That's right.
And this is what happened over the last 40 years, and that problem is not going to go away until intervention happens.
Well, I can speak from experience. We have some land right next to that, where it got shut down. We use Department of Agriculture funds in a cost sharing. Like you say, you always got to come up with a bunch of your own. But we did clear a half section. And the reason we had to, we were on a schedule and had contracts with professional burners to burn it when the cedar trees were this tall where they'd kill. We were pushed back every year because most of these guys, to make a living, also have contracts with the federal government. So when there are the big fires in other states, they're brought in to those. So, like you pointed out, the few days we have here, a lot of times those people who do that professionally aren't in and around here because their first contract obligation is to the federal government. So, long story short, we had contracts in place to take care of these problems on our property. Those cedar trees grow at a rate of about 2 foot a year, and you know that. You've studied it. Well, what goes on is if you can't get that professional burner to honor his contract because he's not around for 5 years, now you've got a 10-foot tree that cannot be killed. Normally isn't killed by fire unless it's a raging wildfire. A controlled burn doesn't kill it. So now you've got to mechanically go remove that stuff. And it's so darned expensive. But you make a choice. And I don't want to just throwing something out here. When my dad bought those properties, there wasn't a cedar tree, rarely. Maybe an old building site, but they weren't there. And what I am seeing down there in the southern part of the county where I live, where there are shallow soils and a lot of native grass, you didn't see a cedar tree. And in the last 15 years, we've got to do something continuously, spending money to keep cedars down. So I don't want to throw something at you don't want to hear, but the bottom line is this area that's been a problem is going to continue to be a problem, like you said, and you're going to add one hell of a lot of extra acres all over the county. Where I don't know what's brought this cedar tree invasion on, but it's getting to be everywhere, and it's going to get bigger.
To answer that question there, the answer I got from the Kansas Forestry Service is the blackbirds winter in these trees in the sandhills north of town. They eat the female seeds and they spread them all over the county.
And they got to go through a bird before they will germinate.
That's probably the number one answer.
So all your fence rows, eye lines, anywhere under something like that, you're planting cedar trees all the time.
There's a couple things though out there. I just met with one of the burn associations, prescribed burn associations. There's a couple, and people can get involved where you help your neighbor out. And it's a group of people that get together. We just met at a bank in town here a couple weeks ago. And there's a group from Rice County and Reno County. I know there's one down by Pretty Prairie and stuff like that. But it's neighbor helping neighbor. You burn theirs off, they'll help you burn yours off and stuff like that. They do a great job. They got some equipment, but you got to get involved and help each other out. So there are some other avenues there too.
We belong to one of those associations. But the thing of it is, it's only so much that can be done. And the bottom line, with our new burn regulations, it doesn't make any difference. The way that's written, the man who drops the match, whether you go through a burn association and they don't drop the match, they do the plan,
you drop the match. The way that law is written, that's my dollar. If I do something wrong and it gets away, I'm responsible the way that's written. And you aren't going to get much help burning anything if I'm essentially risking giving away a lifetime's work or 2 lifetimes' work because I'm the guy that drops the match. That's why we always use professional burners. Expensive as hell. But that's why you do it. Because you don't want to. A lot of that could be why there's a reluctance to do anything. The way that present law just got passed and written is you're potentially giving away everything you ever worked for when you throw that match.
I don't, in my conversations with Adam, as long as you're following the burn guidelines, you're okay. That's what we were talking about the
I'd
other
ask
day.
either Patrick or the DA to speak on it. I do know that as long as you're not negligent, you're following the guidelines, it's one thing, but if they find you to be negligent.
It's gonna happen, if you're out there pasture burning, there's gonna be a rabbit run out, there's gonna be a pheasant fly out, and it's gonna carry it to the next door neighbors. Now, that's just nature. It's gonna happen sometime. And you can't prevent that. That's non-preventable. And so as long as you're doing the guidelines the way it was explained to me, pretty much, is your liability is minimal.
If you burning with a permit lessens your liability significantly. If you burn without a permit, if you choose to not get a permit and do a burn, you have significant liability for anything that happens as a result of that. If you get a proper permit and go through the procedure, your liability is significantly lessened. I can't, as an attorney, say you never have any liability for anything, but if you go through our process and get a proper permit, you are significantly protected. But the people that should be concerned are the ones who choose to not follow the process properly and burn at their own risk. They have a significant amount of liability.
We didn't assign liability in our new resolution, and we really don't have that power anyways.
Right.
It's just setting best practice to coordinate, which could create liability if you don't follow it.
Yeah, you need to follow the burn. You need to get a burn permit to do it right.
Commissioner Parks, do you have anything? Commissioner Weitzel? Commissioner Hurst? I got a few questions. Thank you for being here. I know I can't remember what year it was. It's like 17, where that kind of the kind of last ditch effort there on K61. Was that 17?
17.
I think that predated you by a year. No, you were here?
I was here right after that.
You were right there, weren't you?
I took the follow-up of everything.
Okay. So, I like to go back to that because it seemed like that was the closest event we ever had to having something come into the city of Hutch. Maybe I'm wrong there. But, I mean, can you describe how close we were to basically catching fire to adjacent homes that would essentially roll through the city of Hutchinson without, an ability to stop it?
We had it happen last year, actually, right at the Blue Stem, right off of 30th Street, basically the entrance to Prairie Dunes Golf Course. The fire started just south of the Prairie Dunes Golf Course entrance and ripped through the Blue Stem area. When I pulled up here, we just awarded one of my firefighters a combination award for when I pulled up, the house was on fire. A lady was trying to get out of her house. The embers were on, or the garbage cans were on fire. Embers flying through the air, and they risked their life to get this lady out of this house. But that fire burned all the way up at 30th Street there. It did jump the road, and the guys got it put out here real fast. Where we could have probably lost the country clubhouse that day. Them adjacent homes across on both sides. But we got a handle on the fire. We called the Reno County Task Force in right away. It was a catastrophic day. That was probably the closest one in town since I've been here. But we have a bunch of small ones. I wouldn't say they were small, they were large ones that are close to that. My biggest fear is most of the fires when the Sand Hill State Park catches fire. We've had a southwest wind fire. We get a north wind fire coming out of the park. That thing will cross 43rd Street into all them subdivisions there. And that's one of the biggest risks that we have to this community and the city of Hutch and the District 2 people that live out that way. That's where we're talking hundreds of homes and stuff like that.
Is there a realistic scenario where, I mean, I think people still feel that's an isolated or kind of, isolated area of town. Like if it comes from the north, like kind of Plum area, North Plum, inward, I mean, are there risks to the entire town of Hutchinson where we could lose hundreds of homes?
Yeah, there's exactly. You just go up Lorraine here. There's right on the edge of town. There's all CRP field, right back up to numerous homes there. I don't have the street right off the top of my head, but the right wind. Them are all subdivisions off Plum Street, 69th, coming all the way into town. There's numerous subdivisions where we did actually lose a few homes back in there in 17. But their risk is all the way in. And once some of these homes catch on fire, it's just a domino effect when they're that close to each other. You got to remember, this is catastrophic conditions when this typically happens. 50, 60 mile an hour winds, even more. The 4 County fire that day up there was a 100 mile an hour wind fire that they were dealing with up there. So, we try to do everything we can, but there's definitely a risk to the entire, in my opinion, my professional opinion, there's risk to the entire county all the way through.
And I don't want to exaggerate things, but I think somebody that lives in the middle of Hutch thinks they're immune to a wildfire event. And that's, I mean, the right conditions could roll all the way through Hutch.
Just look what happens out, everybody sees the nightly news out west, what happens on a typical year where the entire communities are devastated and burned to the ground. Likelihood of that happening are probably close to zero, but the opportunity is still there. When the stars do align, and when I say the stars do align, there will be a fire down the road sometime, and it'll start probably in Rice County with a northwest wind, and the whole Sand Hill region, that thing will go all the way to Burton through that town. We stopped it at K61 last time. That thing will continue right through all the way to Burton, and so that's where we have to have these defendable spaces. That's why we're trying to, like Plum Street, we didn't have that where we burned out the ditch in 17. Could we have stopped it there in 17? I don't know, but the option is there, if we can do more of these mitigation burns and stuff like that, or reduce some of these fuel loads. There's a lot of things that are different nowadays than they were back in 17. Our firefighting tactics are totally different, the way we fight fires now compared to we did back in 17. And so we keep advancing. I'll say we got everybody's calling Hutch Fire right now for wildfire mitigation in the state and what's going on. Like I said, numerous people out west, they got great knowledge that they come back and they used for locally here at the local level. When we have these catastrophic days, I have 2 of my, they're called hotshot guys. They're young guys on my department. They're engine boss guys that go out west every time. They've been on hotshot crews for numerous years, one in Arizona and one in Colorado. And I put these 2 individuals on a pickup truck, and their sole job is when a fire comes in, it's not where the fire is. I want them to find a mile or 2 miles ahead of where the fire's going and where we can cut this thing off. And we'll start operations like 2 miles ahead of the main body of fire as it's progressing that way. And it's sort of like a catcher's mitt. We're going to drive that fire right into a catcher's mitt by doing different back burns. Could be fuel mitigation, cutting trees down, whatever it may be. But the point of this whole thing is we changed our tactics and our approach on the way we fight any of these fires. The days of driving in the black and hitting the flanks over a 25 mile an hour wind, it doesn't work. And you're seeing that even on the county level with the volunteer departments. Everybody in the county, we're all changing the way we're fighting these fires.
A couple things I want to hit on. When you look at the Highlands fire, so that fire was moving a mile by mile section in 3 to 5 minutes. So that fire is moving quick. With the Cottonwood complex, it was consuming a mile about every 6 minutes. So those fires are moving, and in addition to that, they're also spotting. They're creating their own spot fires, half-mile events, so they're creating their own weather. Another thing is, you asked about in town. Well, right in the middle of Hutchinson, it might not be the biggest risk, but I'll tell you, when these large fires are happening, every single resource we have are on those. It's resource management at that point. I can't promise that there's going to be some sort of fire apparatus for every other call in the county when we're battling these large fires.
So, do you feel like we've really done anything for you yet?
You want my political answer, or do you want Chief Beer unplugged?
Unplugged.
No.
I didn't think we had, I mean, to be honest, so I just wanted to check. Are we, on the ditch stuff, are we at least coordinating now? I know we kind of took the restrictions away and we gave the county administrator authority to give you permission to burn anywhere you need to burn. I know it's not necessarily in your district. Have we done that at all, or are we still kind of keyholing around districts?
I'm just burning in District 2. That's the only place I have authority having jurisdiction is Fire District 2 in the city of Hutch.
Well, we have give you authority, and I think we'd be happy to do that. And I think we ought to consider funding some of that work if the city of Hutch is willing to do it. It just doesn't seem. I'm just saying, like, I know it's like, hey, more work for the city of Hutch, but it's either now or during the fire. I don't know. I don't know if our volunteer departments have that capacity, but I think we ought to fund some more of that.
I think, talk with Travis would be, I'd be open to, a joint venture, but you need to understand, this is really labor intensive. It's not just going out. We're making sure too, liability, that there's not any fight rekindle on what we do and stuff like that. It's labor intensive. We're pounding it out and making sure everything is totally out, washed down, covered. It's truly a labor. It's not just walking down the ditch and lighting grass on fire. There's a science and a method to what we do. And, additional hands would definitely help. I think there would be a lot of potential, but this year, like Adam brought up here, the weather, Mother Nature has just beat us this year. It's the first year that it's really happened, but we play by the rules too with the burn ordinance, with the winds and stuff like that. And so we're not burning out there on them windy days either.
Thank you. My personal observations, we really haven't done anything, and they keep coming up here and asking for things, and we keep listening, and we keep hearing about all the theoretical events that are going to cause millions of dollars worth of damage and potentially hurt or kill firefighters and people, and we continue to not do anything about this. I'm just pointing that out here that we might as well just not have them come back next year if we're not willing to do anything. A couple of things I think we should do. I think we should, and we can put this on the agenda for a later date, instruct planning and zoning to start, researching what it is we could do to put some rules in place to help mitigate this. And they're going to go through, they go through really hard conversations and make recommendations that they don't have to necessarily implement. We do, but I think it would be good to have them objectively review what it is we can do to better protect ourselves. I think we do need to have a funding conversation in our budget discussions this year and the coming months related to providing whatever resources are willing to do something. It seems like and I'm not pointing the finger at our volunteer departments, but I know they just don't seem to have the time, and it sounds like the window of opportunity is so limited. Even if they wanted to do something, they probably aren't available that day. And so
It's not like you're pointing out, it's not something you can plan. You get up that day and conditions are right, that's the day you go do it. Otherwise, it's not something you can plan in advance.
I'd really like to encourage both of you to continue to work together. Like, I hate it when I hear, there's districts and there's lines, and if you look at the fire districts, they're arbitrary lines that don't really mean anything for fire planning, I'm sure. And so I personally want to break down any barriers associated with that and make sure
It's been a great partnership with us and Dutch Fire. And
saying, I still heard like, hey, we got, District 2's District 2, but I don't think that has anything to do with
It comes down to taxing. The people in District 2 are paying for our 24/7 service. And I think when on this side of the street, they had no disrespect, they got Bueller taxes, and here they got District 2 taxes. They're paying for that different level of service.
Well, I don't think that's smart, and that's not your problem, that's our problem. I think that's a poor way for us to have created that situation where you have some arbitrary line where on one side you got 24/7, on the other side you have you can't cross it or whatever for mitigation. That's not smart. I think we need to work on breaking down those barriers. That's part of.
I think Travis has a plan too in his mind. I know we talked here last week just on the general discussion on some of the old ways and how they were done with the lines and stuff like that. We have a couple other issues, and maybe it's time just to look at defining that, especially with, Station 6 on the north end of Plum Street here. Literally, you go up the road 3-4 miles, that's District 3 then. And stuff like that when we're literally right there.
Yeah.
We have that study session in August, the end of August, and we plan on bringing some of those recommendations to you guys as well.
Well, I know we created a resolution that authorized the administrator to allow fire districts to kind of go across district lines. I understand the funding point. I mean, can we appropriate, like, if Chief Beer has another 500 feet to really do his job in a different district, can we pay him from that district? Like, do we have the authority as the fire?
In the resolution, you specifically addressed mitigation in there and gave the county administrator authority to do that.
Well, I think we
the
should
funding
do that.
across county or district lines, that's.
No, it's not. It's funding within that district. It's just paying.
Yeah, we could do that.
We need to do that. Like, I don't know why we're letting funding get in the way of.
That, but also all these districts separate from 2, their budgets are pretty small. They don't have a lot of extra money that's budgeted for them to really have much to repay.
Well, I'm hearing we haven't tried yet, so I'd like us to try first.
Commissioner?
Yeah.
4% of the people that they sent out surveys to cared. 96% didn't give a hoot, quite frankly. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. And if you go out on 56th, 30th, 43rd Street, I'm just, take 30th, 17th, 4th, there's a lot of huge cedar trees on people's properties. Now, when you look at their house and look at the surrounding area, they can take care of that. It isn't a financial problem for them if they want to take care of it. They just don't want to take care of it, and they're going to suffer the consequences and cost maybe a firefighter's life. Okay? I really sympathize with Chief Bear and Adam and Travis and all the firefighters, just because these people don't seem to care about what happens to their property and their lives and somebody else's lives. I just marvel at how many big cedar trees are out there as I go up 61 Highway. How can you control that from one side to the other on a 50-mile-an-hour wind? It's going to happen, but people have to take responsibility. We can spend all kinds of money and raise your taxes another 10 mils, but people have to take control of their own property. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth, okay?
But you can You can say that till you're blue in the face, they're not gonna do it unless we either say, we're not gonna do anything, or we're gonna change the rules.
I've got an intersection out here on West Fourth that I talked to Don about. Those trees are on private property. They're creating a bad intersection there, and we can't do anything about it. Somebody's gonna get killed there, and then they're gonna get sued. But as a county,
I
we
just don't
can't.
think that's true. Like, there's
I agree with
there's
you.
a balance, right? Like, there's always a balance. Property owners don't have unlimited rights, right? You can't just put a bunch of, I mean, some of those trees are like, giant
I disagree
gasoline
with that.
tanks.
They have unlimited rights. And a lot of them moved to the country for the very reason they want that seclusion and they want those trees. They don't understand the dangers that they're in because they have them, but I perfectly understand why they want to be there. And so for us to infringe upon their life and tell them, you have to cut them down, we cannot do that.
Well,
It is a sad fact, Mr. Hurst, what you brought up, that they don't want to take the time to mitigate the fire that could cost a life or theirs.
it's
But
not
I don't
that,
think it's the government's job to tell them what to do on private property.
it can't be that black and white. If you're advocating for like no zoning laws, no restrictions, like, might as well get rid of every zoning rule.
Well, there's a lot of them I'd like to get rid of.
Well, potentially, but I'm just making the point that it's gray. It's not unlimited.
Well, and I'll push back on one thing too. Sending out a postcard, I don't think is adequate notice. And I volunteered to, if you want somebody to make some phone calls, I'll come in on my own time and make some phone calls to some of these people about their cedar trees, because you guys did something with some insurance people a little while back, visiting with them, and none of us had any idea about the cedar tree problem, and we're insuring these properties. And so I thought that was a great thing, but I think a lot of people don't know. A lot of people do, but I think a lot of people don't know the issue, and I don't think sending a postcard, because nobody reads their mail. We're in the day where everything's online bill pay and automatic payment and stuff. I mean, I probably have a stack this thick of unopened mail on my table right now. So I think too, we need to find a better way of reaching people, and I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I'll volunteer my time to help you go out and knock some doors or call some people and maybe increase awareness, because I think a lot of it is awareness. I don't know how much you guys are on the ground. You probably know more than me, but how much of it is awareness and how much of it is.
Some of it's, they got to take some personal accountability too. We push out these educations, we push out these postcards, we do this wildfire awareness every single year. Commissioner Hurst hit it right, people just don't care. You look at the numbers that I provided you, 40,000 acres in District 4 alone, we have over 1,200 square miles. That would be phone calls to thousands of people that, at that point, if they don't care about the news media, they don't care about postcards we're sending them to these 600 properties, I don't think a phone call is going to change their mind.
What was the thought with the Cottonwood Fire grant that you were looking at? If we did some mitigation in there, was it with owners' approval to go in and do some work, or just go in and do it? I mean, I guess that's my question. If they give you approval and they want the help, you have the funds to do that. I'm not opposed to that, but
So
to just
we no
inflict.
longer have the funds. The idea
I
was
understand that.
if these property owners would agree to it, we identified the 600 properties, we'd identify areas that we could create a fire break or hinge point for the firemen that they could operate off of and benefit all the firemen. If we're just picking ones and twos out of those 600 properties, it's not going to be a countywide benefit to us.
That's right, I understand that.
I will say that I think the public is aware. It's interesting, we just completed our 5-year strategic plan, community-driven strategic plan. Okay, and what that means, I brought in people from nonprofits, business, the hospital, the school systems, private citizens from District 2, the city of Hutch and stuff like that. Had a whole room full of it. We stood out of the way and it was administered by a third party. The 8 services that Hutch Fire provides to our community, we asked our citizens to rank them. What's the most important thing? Structural firefighting was number 1. It was number 1 5 years ago when we did it last time. Number 2, the most important thing to our citizens in District 2 and the city of Hutch, the last 2 times we've done this, has been our first responder program. Okay? Closely, right a few points behind that this year, was wildland firefighting. Okay, before it was ranked 6. Okay, and now it's the 3rd most important thing to our community. And I think that's a telling tale when, like I said, we have a community-driven strategic plan. It's not just Chief Beer's strategic plan. We've had citizens and partnerships develop this, and that's what we're hearing. And so I think they are aware of what's going on. If you even remotely turned on the TV in the last week, what is everybody seeing? A year later, Cottonwood Complex. We've had TV stations out west, I think, every day this week, wanting interviews and stuff like that. If you don't remotely listen to the news or Hutch Post or whatever, it's been out there, and we continue to do it. The sad fact is, after the Cottonwood Complex, after the Highland Fire, we do educational sessions, and we're lucky if we have 15 people show up. You know, and we lost a life, 36 homes, 100-some vehicles, and 92 outbuildings on this last one. And that's my challenge. What's it going to take? Is it going to take 100 homes to burn down before we do something? What is that number? What's that number? We lost a life. I almost lost 2 firefighters, and I guess that's why I'm so passionate about it. We burned up a brush truck. I almost lost 2 firefighters on this last one. And that bothers me. I say a prayer every night for my men and women on Hutch Fire. Every single night before I go to bed, I say a prayer that they go home the next day. I take that very, very serious. And this is not a game that we play. This is life and death, what we do day in and day out. Like it quoted in the paper, what my men and women and all the firefighters in Reno County, what they see and do on a daily basis for this county, this city, the average citizen has no clue what they do and what they see. Whether it's cutting somebody out of a car or doing whatever, what they do is amazing for this community. And I'll leave you with that.
Daniel, you and I were out on a fence viewing not long ago. And I know you had other things to do, but we went up to check out some other locations, property lines. And there's at least 3 houses back in this 1-lane road. Patrick was there, he was walking around too.
I was thinking of that too.
I think there was 3 houses, it might have been a 4th one close by. On a 1-lane road with cedar trees on both sides. Those 2 houses at the end of this 1-lane road were surrounded by evergreens. And the fellow was kind of informed that, sir, if you don't get rid of these, you're going to someday lose your house, and there isn't a firefighter that would risk his life to go back in there, and I don't blame him. There's no way that you would send a truck and man back into this location, because it's probably 3/8 of a mile, a good quarter mile anyway, off of the main road. And, well, I like them. That's what these folks are running into, right?
I'm really surprised you can still get insurance on those properties. I mean, that would solve it in a non-governmental way pretty easily.
Here's an analogy the insurance companies told me when we met with insurance companies that came in after the Cottonwood Complex fire. They go, we're not quite where the hospital is, and I love this analogy that they used. If you have a limb hanging over your house, and you know it's going to fall on your house and create $10,000 worth of roof damage, okay? The insurance company for $1,000 could take that limb down ahead of time before it falls off. They won't do nothing, preventive. But they'll wait till it crashes on your house, and they'll spend the $10,000 to fix your house. That's what the insurance companies told me when they were with us out here. Whereas the hospitals, we're trying to get a preventive maintenance for, you know, early diagnosis of whatever disease or stuff like that. They're footing the bill up front on a lot of things. And so that's the difference, in my opinion, is that they wait till after the situation happens.
My insurance company on a limb hanging over the tree wouldn't let me insure that house till I cut that limb off. Now, that was my insurance company. Others are different.
Well, Commissioner Weitzel, I would definitely appreciate to hear what you find. Appreciate your exuberance and, you know, wanting to go talk to people. I'm a little less confident that you're going to find.
I just don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that you know, if we're holding these events and we've got 15 people show up, you know, are we doing enough to get the word out there? And marketing's always tough. And you know, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's my thing is, you and of course I live in the center of town, so I don't even know what a cedar tree looks like. One of y'all have to show me one day. But it's, I had no idea, but what I do know about is if you got 60 amp fuses on your house is going to catch fire one day.
Get acquainted.
And so, we're able to mitigate a lot of that in town just, by taking pictures of breaker boxes when we insure people. So, I don't know. I just, I know there's going to be a lot of that, but I also know there's a lot of people that don't know, because I've had conversations with people about trees and stuff, and whether or not they've done anything, I don't know. But I definitely appreciate what you guys do, and I'm with Daniel, and we need to get you guys the tools that you need to stop this. But I don't know. We've got a marketing department in the county. I mean, is it possible to use some of those monies to, promote some of this stuff or stuff as well? Because I think, if you see one postcard, you're not going to do anything. But maybe if you get 5 or 6, then, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but we've got people that do, and that could help you, I think. So, but yeah, no, I'm with Daniel on this. We need to really do some things that will help you guys do your job. So.
Thank you, Chief Beer. Thank you, Adam.
What's the ARPA?
It's just the brush trucks that he requested last year for us to reimburse the city of Hutchinson for when the commission approved paying for 50% up to $440,000 for brush trucks to fight these fires with ARPA money.
And gear too.
Well,
I move to approve the ARPA agreement with the City of Hutchinson regarding our.
Commissioner Hurst moves, second.
I'll second.
Weitzel. Discussion. Seems like we talked about their needs pretty well the last hour. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes?
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel?
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Randy 7C. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner, Chairman, since we have some people here from the health department that I'm sure have other things that are pressing, would anybody mind if we moved that one question that Commissioner Weitzel moved up so they could get
I know,
doing their job?
I know the Assistant District Attorney's here for this item as
Oh.
well. I don't know if he has,
Okay.
you're not busy, are you? Do you mind?
Or maybe I just, about what?
Can you wait a little longer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't realize he
No,
was here for that. Okay.
He's, if there's no objection, we'll move 7G to the next item. Commissioner Weitzel, would you like to kick this off since?
Oh, sure. And I'm by no means an expert on HB 2390. I did talk to some people, and it's a little bit more than fentanyl strips, is what I understand. It's creating a whole nother bureaucracy for things. And so the other thing that was brought up was that, when you go up there, you'll be obviously in a county car, and it'll take you, I don't know, it takes me 3.5 hours to drive to Topeka, but you probably drive a little faster than I do. And so, that's a whole day's worth of work. So remote testimony, me personally, I think that would be a better use of your time, but then of course, you're spending, 3 hours here sitting to us, listening to us talk about fire mitigation. So, so I guess that would be the thing. I just, there's a lot of people in the community that are not in favor of 2390. The fentanyl strips, I would say I'm definitely in favor of making those unscheduled, because I don't know why those would be a scheduled substance, but the rest of it I'm not sure that I would be in favor of, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
For sure. So as you gentlemen know, we all wear several different hats, right? So that was the whole purpose of me seeking clarification as far as giving testimony on any type of an issue, especially when it comes to education, because that's our primary job as health educators, is to give our professional opinion based off of data-driven information. So in particular with 2390, that one is creating the legislation for also overdose fatality review boards, also the decriminalization of the strips that would also test for the date rape drugs, and also fentanyl test strips as well. So in this particular bill, 2390, it's definitely something that we, from a public health perspective, are trying to look at the data. As we know, 680 Kansans lost their lives in 2021, and a good majority of those are because of fentanyl. In the studies that have been done in other states with fentanyl test strips, it's a relatively cheap strip of paper, about 62 cents, to not only give an individual the chance to test their substance, because this fentanyl is being put into pills, other substances, and things like that. So it's not just an overdose, it's a poisoning, right? So giving those individuals the chance to, as the studies show, alter their use, and hopefully not use at all, as some showed. But it's also a point of public health and treatment officials and individuals in those lines of work to also have that point of intervention with that individual. It's another point of face-to-face contact when they're educating that individual with that tool. And those face-to-face interventions are the ones that sometimes we're able to capitalize the most on and find those individuals that small window of time to get them into other resources within the community, whether that be treatment or other things like that. So the decriminalization of fentanyl test strips are one that we would like to see, if that's a potential possibility. There's also another one, 2398, that's being posed in the Judiciary Committee, and that's more of a law enforcement, criminal justice approach, where it's increasing the penalties for individuals selling fentanyl, right? Because that's where we need to look to. But also in that bill, it also allows for the decriminalization of fentanyl test strips too. So there's two different avenues that are being used to approach that. But if we could look at that statistic in Rhode Island, where it showed that half of those individuals altered their using habits, I think if we had that half of those individuals in Kansas that lost their lives in 2021 that had that opportunity because of a 62-cent piece of paper that tested that substance. So that's the kind of educational information and informational testimony that we would give, whether that's from a private citizen standpoint or whether that's from a health department standpoint. That's obviously what I wanted seeking clarification on.
So you would just be speaking to the test strips, or would you be speaking to the other bureaucracy?
It would predominantly be towards the fentanyl test strips, although the legislation towards the Overdose Fatality Review Board allows for data sharing within those treatment partners and mental health services that would allow for those overdose fatality review teams to function a lot more seamlessly.
It mandates it though, doesn't it, or is it just allowed? I believe it mandates it if
I would have to look at it a little closer. The only reason it's specified towards the mental health and substance use treatment is because those are protected by a different type of legislation already. So.
Well, hey, thank you for.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Mr. Dewey?
Some of the abrasion maybe people have with that and stand against that bill is it's as if you're condoning them using and giving them a strip so they can continue to use. And I see both sides of that. I see where you could help curb the fatalities, but at the same time,
I don't think it's the public sector's job to give somebody something to enable them to continue to use.
Right. We also put
And so
fire
it's-
extinguishers in people's homes, and we're not promoting fires.
I mean, I get that, but no, because the reality of what you just said a minute ago is it would curtail how they use. It's how I understood that, and I get that. At least it would keep them from taking something toxic that would kill them.
So some of the questions I get a lot of times are from parents as well, asking me about the legality of them purchasing fentanyl test strips, because they're like, well, what if my child's using pills at these parties?
It's the reality.
Right, and so they're wanting to, because these tests are actually urine strip tests to test urine, right? And they can be used to test substances as well. So you have a lot of different individuals that are trying to use these for a lot of different reasons, right? And with the fentanyl scourge the way it is, this isn't a magic cure.
No,
This
I
isn't. But
It's been on the
it's-
table a couple different sessions, I know, up there.
Right.
John, to you, if you don't mind me asking, what is your contention with holding this off?
Well, it was just I think it was the rest of HB 2390, creating this whole new bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And, I mean, are we for less government or are we not? Because, the problem with too much government is never more government.
Well, it doesn't sound like that's in any way their testimony is
And
misrelated.
so that was my question, was, what exactly is he going to be testifying to? And if it's just the decriminalization, I mean, I think we should decriminalize a lot more than test strips, to be honest, but.
I sometimes read this wrong, but 290, it's in the Senate right now, is that right?
Yeah, it goes up Thursday.
It looks like it passed the House unanimously. Is that true?
Yep.
Okay, so it's just, there's some battle in the Senate about
There
something.
could be, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it looks like it passed 121 to 0 in the House. So, it doesn't seem that controversial, but that's just my opinion.
Pretty good statement right there.
I definitely support your work in trying to keep our kids and everyone here more safe if they're going to make bad choices. So thank you for your work there. I think the questions are answered.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I support your work too, and I appreciate, again, what you guys do. But I think that's some of the abrasion in the public that people I've heard, they feel like you're condoning a use when they're far removed from the whole situation that you deal with on a daily basis, and so, yeah.
But you're not, right? You're just trying to.
So one of my greatest qualifications for this work is I'm a person in long-term recovery.
Right.
And if it weren't have been for certain measures like that and capitalizing on those small windows of opportunity, I don't know that I would be here doing the work that I'm super blessed to be able to do for Reno County, the county that was here to give me that second chance. And so I just hope that I can pass it on to others in our community and in our state.
Good discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Weitzel, for bringing that up. Thank you, Seth, for your time here. Thank you. Just so we're clear, Randy's chatted with me a couple times, Administrator Randy, on, what are the responsibilities for staff and when should they testify and when should they not? And, I personally gave him some feedback that he should keep us in the loop on things, but he has to administer the county and they have a job to advocate, and so sometimes not everything's going to come to this commission for decision, but I think the way it worked today, where you were all notified and it came up in the commission and there was feedback, worked pretty well, so I wanted to make sure they didn't talk out of turn there on Randy's ability.
I think it was handled well as well, and I guess a few years back there was something, and somebody's like, well, did we even know that this person? This was before I was on the commission. Did we even know that this person was testifying on behalf of the county? And so
I think some of that's been corrected for sure, and there's definitely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Okay, back to 7B. We're slowly working our, I'm sorry, 7C, courthouse interior renovation project. Randy?
Okay, this is, obviously, last year, went out to bid for the courthouse renovation project. Expecting about a $1.2 million project, came in a little over $2 million. Ward Davis Builders is the bidder, or the low bid. When this was brought to the commission in January, there was discussion to have Commissioner Bogner, Commissioner Hurst meet with Harlan and myself to kind of look at what changes could be made, what cost-saving measures could be taken to get the cost a little bit lower. So there was about, let me see, pull this up. There were cuts. What was cut from the little over $2.1 million project was the removal of the dumbwaiter, which I believe was $67,000. The removal of the second floor southwest conference room and the walkway between the mezzanine and the second floor. So there was over $300,000 in savings, about $320,000. The contract that I know we sent yesterday was kind of late when we got it from GLMV, who's also here for any questions, had the contract for $1,807,025. I have on the summary 1.867. That's $60,000 for a lift, chair lift, or a load lift that would go on the stairway to get to the mezzanine, so we could still use it, meet ADA requirements, and also haul things up there. So instead of almost $300,000 for the stair or the walkway, we're going to look at spending $60,000 for the lift. That's not part of the contract. We'll do that separate. So that was removed from the contract that would be with Ward Davis. That's kind of a quick overview. Harlan's here. I know Brad and Chrissy from GLMB is here. Ward Davis is here. So if you have questions.
Let's just go around. Mr. Bogner, you got anything?
No, that's pretty much what went on when we met, and some of those savings were due to certain rooms and stuff. Our personnel, it was taken out of the bid because our personnel will handle it themselves. It's just a way to arrive at something we feel is more manageable. And I got to thank Davis and Davis over there for meeting with us and really looking at things and you know, your cooperation. Appreciate that, guys.
You're welcome.
Mr. Parks?
Having inherited this project with the previous commissioners, it's been a while coming to this point. I catch a lot of feedback over this particular project, as you imagine the rest of you probably had, for the dollar amount that's being put into it, especially for what people perceive, and I somewhat perceive as pure convenience for some of it. Within this plan and scope of work, there are some things that have to be fixed. I mean, they really do have to be repaired. Things that are flooring and other natures that we've talked about that have to be taken care of. But in a time that we're living in right now, where the finances and interest is going up again, and there's people that, whether we believe it or maybe nobody in this room does, that are living check to check, and some of them can't even get the proper cares that they need. Their perception of us spending this kind of money for a convenience item is through the roof. They don't like it. And I have somewhat of a apprehension, a little bit of a heartburn over some of it myself. I just have to be completely honest with it. Where we continue to have big projects over the history of the county, even before I was in here, that continue to spend big money to do things that, and then we look down the road and see there's needs for those kinds of funds for other projects that need to be taken care of.
I have a little apprehension with going along with all of this. I think the repairs that need to be done could be done, and this could be phased in increments. Now, I know I visited both with Patrick and with Randy, and I understand the funds have been laid back and are there, but it's just kind of something that I have. I woke up this morning and I guess I had two different opinions in my heart on this, and one was we the people, and the other was what do we do with this? And when it comes down to a decision that I make, it's always going to be we the people in the county. And I think the majority of them don't want this, to be honest with you. I know there's needs in a lot of different departments. It's going to free up, it's going to move people around. But all of us work in confined spaces. We've got a basement area in the courthouse over there that has people on top of each other. That is not the case in these areas, what we're going to affect. And if anybody needs the help, it's downstairs. But I'm going to leave that in my opinion, and I'll make my decision accordingly.
Commissioner Weitzel?
A lot of us in this room ran on a platform of smaller government and less taxes, and there's a lot of people in the nation that run on a platform of smaller government and less taxes, and then they get into office and they raise taxes and they grow the size of government. Somebody gave me a call and said that we are required to provide this space to the DA. I spoke with Patrick about that, and he said right now, in his opinion, with the current staffing, we are not required to approve this space for the DA. This would be a convenience items. There are some things that do need to be fixed, and we do need to consider that, but this as a whole is not something that we have to approve. I talked to one of the judges, and their response was, why do they need to be on the same floor? It's always been that way. That money could be used for, and then she said, listed for other things that we could use that money for. Providing space for future growth, and it means that we're intending to grow the government. We've lost population over the last 10 years. To the census, 8 years from now, maybe we'll gain population and we'll have need for more government employees. But if we're losing people and gaining government employees, again, we're back to growing the government and raising taxes. In my opinion, I know the money's there, but the money got there because we took it from our citizens. And so yes vote is a vote for high taxes and more government. And so that's the reason why I will vote no on this. But I do think there are some things on there that do need addressed, but as a whole package, I will be a no vote.
Mr. Hurst?
It's a lot of money. Nothing has been done in that courthouse for years. We have continued to hear, why aren't you using that space? How come we've just got dead cubic feet that we're using HVAC on? Like Commissioner Parks said, there's that basement area. Not only is it just IT that's involved with over people, we've got the drug unit that is crammed in the other side. As we've just heard, how many things are bad happening out there, they're all related to drugs. So if we could give them some room to operate, that would be another thing. You can look at that space up there for the DA's office in a couple of ways. Yeah, they can get by. Maybe for now, but the DA is going to need, we trimmed it here a couple of years ago from asking for 2 down to 1. So I don't look at this as this project as more government. I look at an efficiency way of utilizing space we already have. Kind of makes sense to me. And the fact that we've I looked at every which way. We talked about the flooring downstairs, whether it needed to be done or not. We had really good questions. Don asked a lot of good questions. And we got to looking at that flooring, and one trip, I know it may never happen, one trip, and you'll pay for that floor a couple of times over. And also, there's future plans to use part of that area that we originally were going to put in a room there for the commissioners in the west side of the main floor down there. We were originally going to put and when we looked at the cost of that versus doing the basement to have a little more square footage and being able to utilize that other one on a possible move, that came into play. And so I don't think any of us here really liked that idea of 300,000 for that cantilever, is that the right word, cantilever access? So in order to utilize that space upstairs to give IT more room, and IT is one of those things that I don't think, the way things are going, that we're going to cut any employees in IT. Not with everything that's happening. I don't think that's going to happen. And so from the fact that we don't have to set in permanent walls up there, we can use cubicles type. And
You talking the mezzanine?
mezzanine, yeah.
Yeah, but that's very, very minimal to put people up there
Yeah,
anyway.
it is. But I think to add the DA space up there that's just utilizing nothing, and it's gonna, we need to do something up there because you cannot hire new employees to be in that space up there. Thank goodness one of them came here not long ago, but I think probably to mention the fact that maybe having some new quarters and be able to operate in better was an enticement to getting professional help here. By putting the lift in there, the chair lift, that negated that 300,000 need to do that. And as we spoke, Don and I and Ward's Randy spoke about that, it seemed like that it was a very easy do with regard to even thinking about going to the historical group to do that. I would like to figure a way to cut more out. I don't see it, and have a useful piece of property. I don't think, and I think there's one thing that, you could do it piecemeal. You could do the one part of it and then a year or two later do the other. But I think the economy of, and this was brought out, I asked that question, I think, Don, why don't we do part of it now and part of it later? I think there's some economy of using labor as well as the economy of purchasing, that if certain things have to happen and you've got a crew up here that's doing framework, that you can bring them downstairs at the same time and do the framework down there, then move them back up when they need to be. I think that's an efficiency use of labor that we won't have if we split this up into different projects. I know we've set aside $1 million already.
We set a couple million aside.
Couple million.
Yes.
And we've planned on this for a while and how to use this space to the best use of, and to secure good qualified people when other people change jobs, to be able to get those folks in there to have the capabilities and the wherewithal to do their job easier and more efficient. And I don't think we'd be growing employees. Like I said, outside, you never can tell what's going to happen in IT. And I don't feel that it's I would hope it wouldn't have anything to do with more government. I think it's be more efficient use of government myself. So I thought we had a really good conversation, and we brought out a lot of points. I think Don brought out a lot of points, and we discussed them over what was more efficient, what was the best use of our funds and our money. And I think Ward gave some really good. We've even talked about how to do a different access for fire.
Yes, that's.
In place of going downstairs. We even talked about that, and come to find out that we couldn't do. And we thought we had a good idea, didn't we, Don?
But what you can legally do and what's you're able to do in this building is a little different. That is a large cost, the stairway. And as if we're ever going to use that space up there, that stairway has to be in there for fire. You know, you need two ways out. So there are some things that will have to be done if that space is ever used, and it's better done now before you get something else below it or whatever, because about everything is going to have to come up through. It would be, you might undo what you already paid to do by splitting it up. I don't like the idea of spending a lot of money, but the reality is you come to a point at any time, you either keep in good working condition and repair what you already have, or you build it new. And if we were going to build this kind of space anywhere else, first of all, we'd have to acquire the land to do it. Second of all, we'd have to figure out, I don't know. I may be speaking out of hand, but I've seen a lot of buildings built. I don't think 15 million would touch replacing the space. Probably closer to 20 and maybe more than that. So, do we let this deteriorate thinking we're going to buy something somewhere else? Or do we keep what we have in good condition and make various places in it available for use? When we've got shortages right now, when we did our orientations, there were several groups that could use more space. And I tell you that I need to talk to IT quite a bit. That's one of my failings. I didn't do as much younger with IT as I should have. But those people are stacked up down there. There isn't room to wiggle. And you've got well, they're even divided. Some of their people are elsewhere in the building, which makes it harder. My one thought on the thing is, and I know it's a lot of money, but everything's a lot of money in this day and age, but if we don't keep up what we already have, we will be seeking new buildings, buying buildings, and they may be remodeled at some point. To me, it's just keeping what you have in good condition so you can continue to use it, so you're not forced into spending a whole lot more money in the near future. And that's kind of how I look at it. If you guys see some cuts that Ron and I missed, I'd be glad, let's hear it, because we need to, there are certain things that need to be done here. And some of the things are in a gray area. If you see something that we missed or you think that should be, I'd say it now before we vote on anything and appropriate any monies, because we're getting to a point where we gotta figure something out.
To your point, and to John's, I don't look at this as a raise in people for governmental. I don't think we're expanding the government because we're gonna have oversight with that anyway. And to yours, I spent my whole life in the maintenance side of things. That was what I was advocating, that we would make the necessary repairs. And I believe moving IT would be a good thing, because you'd free up that basement space even for the sheriff across the road. It'd give them more room, maybe something to that effect. And that's very, very minimal to do that, to put a chair going up the stairs. That ain't gonna take much. But to do the whole scope of work other than just repairing the building isn't, from my estimation and my tours as well, isn't totally necessary at this time. I'd rather see it incremental as time goes on. I understand the labor cost of it. That's something I've done all my life as well. And so I'm not advocating for not saving money, but I just, I don't want to see us spend this kind of money when we have a rise in taxes almost every time we turn around. We've got possible tax shortfalls coming up that the state might inflict upon us and things like that. I would hate to spend this money and not be able to give it back to the citizens, and then in July tell them they're going to have a tax increase. I can't in good conscience do that.
Well, that's not gonna happen.
Well,
That's,
you don't know that.
well,
Things are,
we already have the cash.
well, I get that, but it's just, okay, well, we'll back that point out, but I'm just saying, I just don't, the whole project and its scope, I don't think we need to do. That's where I'm gonna leave it. I'll just be quiet now.
Were you finished, Commissioner Hurst?
You know, we even looked at that dumbwaiter. And that is one thing that I think would help speed up things, but on the same hand, we've got an elevator.
They're not going to be able to use the elevator.
Huh?
They're not going to be able to use the
They
elevator.
can use the elevator,
Can they?
but I'm at, just as far as efficiency goes, between this court system and up. But I think that was one of the things that maybe we're just gonna bring back, but to think about. But on the same hand, we have an elevator. That's one of those convenience things that we don't have to have. So I think it's a good project, and I think we've looked forward to this for 3 years, trying to do something.
So Deputy District Attorney's here. Would you like to say anything?
I just came in case there were questions. We obviously I don't think need the dumbwaiter system that was put in. We can work with the courts to use access to that area if this project's approved.
One question. So the court staff that I talked to said that the DA did not want them, if the remodel happens, that the DA did not want them going through DA space to bring records up to the top floor, which was why they had requested the dumbwaiter. So that way they had a way of getting it up there without taking the new stairs that were proposed. So that was my understanding, was the reason for the dumbwaiter, was the DA did not want them going through the space, and so they would have to use the stairs. They would not be able to use the elevator.
Well, I spoke with Mr. Stanton last week, and that's not going to be a problem. We will work with the court system to come into that storage area behind there, and look forward to cooperating with them. I don't know where that came from, but that's, Mr. Stanton told me last week that they'll obviously work with them to give access to save money. And the reason I came was to clarify any of those questions.
Okay, so yeah, and sometimes, when stuff gets passed from one person to another, the meaning changes, and so I appreciate your clarification there. And I'll say I'm with Randy, and I'm with you on this, Don. Any maintenance that needs to be done to keep the buildings in good order, I am 100% for, because it's much easier to fix things as they arise than it is to remodel or do a new building. But a lot of this isn't that.
Okay. It seems like we're split. Is there those that are signaling dissent on this. My question to you is like, okay, if we break it up, where do you break it up? I think the Commissioner Bogner and Commissioner Hurst tried to do that. I mean, I see one like line there, which is, okay, you do the fifth and fourth work to, accommodate the remodel needs of the DA, and you scrap the first and second floor. Like, I could see maybe a delineation there. It looks like a few $100,000 worth of savings to do that. Like, is there, or you just, we're not gonna do anything here? Is that the position? Or do you wanna cut it down more?
So I think rather than approaching it as a project and a remodel, go back to the start and, hey, these are, like the DA, there's some roof damage in his office. Obviously, that needs to be fixed. And so things that are needs versus things that are wants. To be honest, I expected this to be a 4-1 vote, so I didn't prepare for that. But yeah, I mean, like anything that's a want rather than a need, when inflation is so high and people are using their credit cards to buy groceries, I think anything that's just a want and not something that absolutely needs to be repaired because it could affect the building or could have be a tripping hazard or something like that.
I see your point. In my experience, in doing working with some other organizations, I have seen the lack of preparation really cost an organization a lot of money. And I've seen it to where if they look for a path forward, that they know they're gonna have to do some remodeling, some work as times changes, that about every 20 years, that's gonna have to be done. It's been, in 40 years of working with some other people, it just seems like that every 16 to 20 years, there's gonna have to be some update to be able to be, what's the real estate word for it? It just needs to be done to be able to be functioning efficiently, and your flow patterns and everything, and the availability to hire people when you need to. It just has to be done that way, and I think this has been, 80 years coming, so.
Randy, I thought the DA had a unique case here related to, they were crammed, it's been a long time, I think there's some hints here that, well, this is kind of preferential to this department, other departments need needs. Can you confirm that, this is
From my conversations with Tom, the district attorney, this is essential for his operations. Separate from moving everyone to the 5th floor, that is one issue, but right now they don't have conference room space. So if they want to meet with people, or if they want to meet as a team, they have to kick people out of their own offices and use other space. So just efficiency there. This is with the remodel using the storage space, the original jail, the courthouse, turning that into offices for current office staff that would move up, an additional attorney or two as cases continue to increase regardless of population, and then have a conference room for them. So it's really to create an atmosphere and an environment where they can function without being in each other's way, because they are cramped.
So the point I disagree with Commissioner Weitzel and maybe some of the Commissioner Parks is that if you want to impact taxes, you need to start talking about cutting jobs here. Like, it has nothing to do with spending $1 million, $2 million one time. Like, we spend $10, $20 million in payroll every year. Like, that's the ongoing operational cost of the county is actually what is going to impact taxes in the long term. So, that's where the big government is. So you can't, like, I don't think it's I think it's pretty easy to say, I'm not going to vote on this because it's big government. It's a one-time cost, right? It's a lot harder to say, I'm not going to vote, I'm going to cut the budget by 10, 20% and really change the trajectory of our taxing. Like, this county commission has reduced taxes 5% for the last 2 years, the 2 years I've been on here. And I think we're going to continue to do that. So this has nothing to do with bigger government, in my opinion, nothing to do with higher taxes, in my opinion. It has to do with, we have these people, they need good office space, they need good, reasonable working conditions. I think the question I have is it unreasonable today? It looked pretty tight and crammed in there to me. And like, the only thing you can do is say, well, stop hiring attorneys. We can't make that decision. You could say, well, stop arresting so many people. We can't make that decision. It's a weird situation that I've learned being a county commissioner, where we don't get to make half the decisions associated with the actual, dependency that's required, whatever is dependent on, operations and space and offices. We don't actually get to make those decisions. The DA hires who he wants, the state creates the criminal laws, and the sheriff arrests who he wants. So that system is there. And so our job is to make sure that they have adequate space and reasonable space. And I'm not concerned that we're creating new systems, new bureaucracy. We're just trying to keep up with what they need to house their people.
Something on Randy's idea, doing it a piece at a time. I've been involved in cases like that, and we were forced to do it because we plain didn't have the money in the organization I was on at the time. So we did what we needed to do business daily. And 10 years later, I'm sitting in line at this business, and the reason the line's there is because the next phase that should have been done and was supposed to have been done didn't get done, so you created a bottleneck. The next phase in spending never happened, and it hasn't happened to this day. And that's 40 years ago. Continues to be a bottleneck in government and any business. You have a constant turnover of people, and if you're going to do it piecemeal, there's got to be some way to make sure that it eventually gets done, or you've just put a Band-Aid out here and you've walked away. But I don't like spending a lot of money. I never liked it in my own business. But there are times when if we're going to do it that way, and I'm not saying it could or shouldn't be done or couldn't be done, if you're going to do it that way, it's got to be one heck of a waterproof plan, or all you've done is just kick the can down the road and put a Band-Aid on today. So, and maybe that's the way to handle it. I just don't know, but in personal experience, I every time I'm at that business, I just think, why didn't we figure out a way?
Well, I'm trying to not get a split vote here. I'm not hearing a lot of opportunity for additional compromise. Like, Randy, do you have anything, that would You get on board?
Well, not without backing clear up and rehashing the whole thing. As I said earlier, I did visit for some time with Randy and with Patrick about this, and it's not required at this time to do that. And so I don't want to get in a bind down the road. I fully understand that problem, Don, as well, but I came into office telling people we would reduce spending, we would try to find a way to bring their taxes down. And over the course of time, it may very well be that this board will look at reducing services and help to make that happen. But I think we live in a day and age when we have to be cognizant of that with what's going on in the world. And I don't believe it's going to get a whole lot better. And so we've been at the luxury of having plenty of tax coming in. I don't think we will be in the future. That's my gut. I think things will tighten up a whole lot more. And so, to your point, maybe it is the time to do that, but I think it would be well to just, and that's why I said I spoke my piece, and I don't know that I want to throw any more out there, but I respect your wishes, and I assume you do that back, reciprocate that back.
And just in this conversation, we've talked about hiring additional attorneys with the extra space that we're providing. So, and that was one of the things that was mentioned in the proposal was space for additional people that we might hire. So, but I agree with you 100% that yes, we do need to look at staffing, and I've requested the different staffing stuff because when we budget this year, what we're spending on people, is everybody necessary? Maybe they all are. I don't know. But I think that is a tough conversation we need to have as well. So I do appreciate you bringing that up.
Due to the fact that we have funded this project to go forward in the past, we've allocated funds to this. We've reviewed these plans considerably and looked at ways to save funds, save money, and to do the things that need to be done so that we can keep staff. I would move to approve the courthouse interior renovation project as presented by staff today.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bogner. Final discussion. Seems like we've done a pretty good job discussing this. Yep. Roll call, please.
Shahers,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
No.
Commissioner Bogner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel,
No.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes. Motion passes 3-2. Next item on the agenda is Youth Services Annual Report. Actually, we might take a 5-minute recess here, take a break.
I appreciate your concern, but you need to bring up some alternatives.
I think you make good points.
I knew there was something I missed too, so. Didn't know what it was.
I got my matrix here.
Good thing you're keeping track, because it's evident I lost track.
We have 7D and then 7F, right?
Okay, 70s, welcome back. We're back in session. 7D, Youth Services Annual Report.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Joe Hemeke. I'm the Assistant Director with Reno County Youth Services. Shelley Bredemeyer, our Director, typically comes over to answer any questions you may have on our annual report. She's unavailable this morning, so I'm here if there would be any questions. There's a lot of statistical information. As you go through that report, the end of it just gives a little snapshot of intake and assessment, which is part of youth services, obviously. And that gives you a clearer shot of how many youth we are serving yearly and things like that. So if there are any questions, I'd be certainly glad to.
Let's go around the room. Commissioner Weitzel? Yeah. Commissioner Hurst?
Nice report.
Parks?
No, I don't have anything.
I pretty much read through it. And it's,
If you want some more discussion in the future, don't write a report so good, and then questions about it.
Leave a few blanks. Okay.
Well, I've got, I'll ask a question.
there you go.
Remind me again, and it's probably in the report and I missed it, the percentage of non-Reno County
Youth
clients.
That way,
Yeah.
we bring in. Yeah, it's in there. I can tell you this, for the start, for this year, we had 47 youth just in our detention center from Reno County. They stayed a total of 1,300 days. If we had to move them out to other facilities, that would cost our county just under $200,000 to house those youth. So that's a pretty small. Our number is small county-wise through Reno County. Intake and assessment at the very back of the report strictly deals with Reno County youth. So those are the back 3 and 4 pages. When you come to page 10, or I can just tell you, it talks about the offenses that youth are brought into our facility for, and I'm looking for that percentage of the youth outside of that. There's a graph. We typically have, without looking at the numbers here, we're at about 70% or so.
Reno County?
Out of county.
Now, you are being reimbursed for that, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That is the big chunk. Yeah, we only utilize we have to use about 20, usually a quarter to maybe a third of that budget that we ask for because we are funded by all those other counties. There's been a lot of discussion from some counties about that they have raised their rates on their per day cost for housing youth from detention. We haven't been in on that discussion at all because some people have almost priced themselves out of that. We want to make sure we have beds available to all the surrounding, because we contract with a lot of counties. So we have a lot of youth coming in from other counties, but we always I make sure that our bed space, we always keep at least 2 beds open for an emergency basis. Because if we get to a certain higher number, we have to bring more staff in, and staff are not at a premium right now. As they are all quite across the board, but yeah, we're able to maintain very well.
What's this predates all of us, I think, but the theory behind supporting other counties, is it economies of scale? Is it we're best positioned to provide the service?
several counties do not have a facility like this. If you go east to Lawrence and down south and southeast and north to Junction City, there's one. But northwest Kansas, there are no facilities. Senate bill back in 2017, a big Senate bill came through and closed several facilities across the state with the intent of putting that money into the communities for mental health and drug services, things like that. A lot of that has not happened. So we are the facility that a lot of people place at, and some of the other facilities like Garden City, they'll call me routinely and say, hey, we're full, we're really low on staff, we have too many youth, can we send some youth to you? And then the county that has placed them with Garden City will then pay us the $150 a day to house that youth until they are able to take that youth back. One thing that's changed the demographic, or not the demographics, but the numbers a lot, when that Senate Bill 367 came through, it changed why youth could be detained. It really put a lot more parameters on it. It had to be in there for more serious crimes to be able to come to stay with us. So in our detention facility, we has seen a large increase of youth being charged with murder, high-level felony rapes, sex cases like that. So numbers have changed.
Who is it that puts them in detention?
The county themselves, or the sheriff's department from that county transports them. So even if they're picked up on a municipal or a city crime in another county, that sheriff's office typically transports them to us. But they have, to put that in a nutshell, they have an intake and assessment office like we do, but some of them serve several counties also. So a youth has to go to intake and assessment every time they get picked up by law enforcement. That's their first contact with our system, the statewide system. An assessment is done on them now. It's called a Kansas Detention Assessment Instrument, the KDI that we utilize. And if they score a certain amount of points, then they're eligible to be detained. And then that sheriff's office transports them to us with a transport order and all the paperwork that we need. Reno County, that's handled locally, obviously.
So if we raised our prices, where would they go?
There are some places now, some of the counties that have their facilities still open. It's a great question, because some of them now have gone to, the county pays so much every month despite how many youth they house. So they, whatever their number they come up with, $10,000, $8,000, whatever it is, they say, hey, we can house as many people as we want here because we've already paid our amount. Or they may just sit empty all month because there's nobody being arrested. So if we didn't have the facility for that, they might go to Lawrence, to Girard, down southeast, Garden City, and then Junction City.
Well, I don't want to take advantage of the situation, but at the same time, it seems like we have a service, a product that is in fairly rare supply, and we shouldn't be paying any more than our portion, at least. I think, in fact, we should probably be, do you know what percentage of the budget is funded by county taxpayer dollars?
About a quarter.
I mean, that's fairly fair to the intake number, but.
And can you speak on, because I remember I talked to her about this, and this was one of the things that I was kind of impressed with, so just so it's on the record. Can you speak to youth being shuffled around to these different facilities and what we do here in Reno County?
If you're talking about disruptions,
Yes.
That's on our emergency shelter side. The emergency shelter houses youth who are in custody of the state due to home situations. They cannot be home for whatever reason, so they're with us with the idea that they are going to reintegrate home possibly, if that's available, or maybe go on to foster care. So we usually staffed for 14 youth in that emergency shelter. It's co-ed. So we have a ratio, which is in our licensing, is one staff per 7 youth. So we adhere to that, obviously, and the thing that we've really been proud of, and I think that you're alluding to there, is when you get 14 youth in there with so many different backgrounds and so many problems and the way they've been treated in their lives, and they get brought together under one roof, there can be the potential for a lot of problems, obviously. We have not disrupted on a youth. This May will be 2 years since we have said we cannot handle this child. He is absolutely more than we can take. We've dealt with a lot. Our staff go through a lot. Staff retention is a big deal. It's hard to get people to come to work. So retaining them is a tough thing, and sometimes that puts a strain on it, because we are very proud of that, because these youth have been given up on their whole life, from one place to another. We literally have had kids who are 12 or 13 years old that have been to 70-plus foster homes in their life. There's just no consistency. So they can't get an education, they can't get any treatment, they can't get mental health, nothing. So we really strive to. And then, and maybe this predates a lot of people also, but that used to be a facility for no more than 90 days stays. We have a young lady there now with us that's been there 16 months. She's got a job in the community. She's going to school. She opened her own bank account. It was just one of those awesome things to see, because I think, where would she be right now if she didn't have that stabilizing factor, And it's one youth at a time. They're all tremendous kids, they just need a shot. So we certainly don't want to give up and say we can't handle that, because they've heard that too much, if that's what you're
Yeah, that was exactly
You bet.
what I thought. Thank you
Sure.
very much.
You bet.
You might mention also the Christmas time people, the holiday time people that volunteer and bring gifts and talk to the kids and et cetera.
We have churches that step up, that come to us on a weekly basis, and then they're there at Christmas time and the holidays. We have different organizations around. Our local police department here and the sheriff's office came over and brought a couple $1,000s in things of donations, for the kids. Sad to see, the holidays come around and we're all going about our lives, and they're just sitting there. Some of them get to go home on a pass if that's available, but we do a lot. We have our cooks making very, very big, nice meals for them on Thanksgiving, and they make good meals all the time. But it's, how we all do that. So we make sure that happens for them. But the community has really, really helped us. Nickerson High School does a fundraiser each year and brings us items, and then there's people that donate toiletries and things like that, the trial size shampoos. Because some of the youth that come to our shelter on an emergency basis, what we call a PA, a police admit, they're not there for weeks or months maybe. They just came from a horrific situation and are brought to us for safety until they can go to a court hearing within 72 business hours. So then the judge makes a determination if they're going to stay with us or get moved on. So we got a lot of those, and we like to send them with something, maybe a bag to carry their stuff in, because one of my peeves is seeing youth come in with all their belongings in a trash bag. What a horrible message to send to a kid, First of all, you're being pushed from place to place, and all your belongings go into a trash bag. It's ridiculous. So we have people that donate duffel bags and things like that, so we're able to give that to the youth when they leave, and maybe with their initials on it or something. But yeah, it's been really a tremendous facility. It's awesome. The community is really, really great.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, item 6E is the discussion of a resolution to cancel certain county warrant checks. Randy, you want to discuss this?
Yeah, as much as I can. This was put on by our county clerk, Donna. This is to cancel checks, I believe, that have been uncashed for 2 years, 2 years minimum. And a lot of the checks that are on here, the majority are jury fee amounts of $10. There are some that are more, but in past, what we do is what the commission approves and what the county clerk asks is for the discussion. She'll publish the notice about the checks and then recommend a resolution at the end of this month or a few weeks later to formally cancel those checks.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. Normal course of business, any other business doesn't have the option of keeping the money. If there's a check that if there's funds in an account for a person, they have to send it to unclaimed property. The statute 10815 kind of exists as a special option for a county because it's typically jury fees. It's just such a problem. It just keeps the money, instead of that juror taking their $10, it goes back into the pool for the next juror to get the $10. It just kind of keeps the money in the same account. So it's an option. I do call it an option. I don't think, when people ask me if something's required of the county, I take that very strictly to say you guys are required to do something. So you're not required to do this, but it's a special thing that the county can do just to deal with this one kind of issue of these small checks. So that's all I wanted to add.
Are they marked? A lot of the checks you get from various businesses or the county are marked that if they're not cashed within so many days, so many months, they're null and void.
I don't know if they're marked that way, yeah.
I was thinking I saw it on the county checks.
The most recent one I got was 365 days. It was for a tag refund.
And I'm understanding you're sending them a second notice, hey, it's out there.
Right, so that we go through the list, and hopefully I can explain it. So we get the list for the 2 years. We go through it, we mark off, we make sure like if there's a business or somebody that we're familiar with, that's if it's an enormous amount of money, we contact them. We reissue those checks, but most of them like that is the jury checks that are $10. A lot of people, they get that reimbursed from their employer most of the time anyway, so I think they just don't take their checks, but yes, it's out there for 2 times, and then if we don't hear back from them, then we go ahead and I void those checks.
I had an instance where I knew the last name. It was a typical last name of a community member, but the first name was not what he goes by, okay? I made about 3 phone calls before I finally found somebody, yeah, that's him. So I gave him a call, and they said, oh, I've been thinking about picking that up. So he came in and got his money. It was just a case of, I saw a name. And
That's a constant problem. And when it goes to the state, I think at least you folks are sending them a notice that it's there. When it goes to that state deal, nobody sends anybody a notice. You got to take it upon yourself to go find it. And some companies, I know from experience, are too damn lazy to do their job. Let's just put it that way. The people haven't moved. They're living in the same house. They work for that company their entire working career, and they claim they don't know where to send the money to. And they send it to the state. It's just an easy out for a lot of people, but they're not taking that here. So
I know, and I guess my big thing was, it comes up every so often, probably about every 5-10 years. There's a big deal. Hey, check and see if there's any unclaimed money and stuff. And a few years back, I got on one of those websites, and it wasn't my last name. It wasn't my name, but it was one of my cousins' names was on there. So I gave him a call. I was like, hey, do you know that was on there? Well, it turned out to be his dad's. And, he was just overjoyed that he got that, $50 or whatever it was back. And so all I'm saying is this isn't our money. I mean, obviously we can vote to make it our money, and that's fine, but why not send it to the state? So, if somebody's cousin looks it up in the database and they find it and, they can get their $10 or $50 or $250 or back. And that's all I'm saying is, is it the right thing to keep somebody's money when they did the work? Or should we send it to where they have a chance to get it back in the future if they find it?
I would make a suggestion, if the commission wants to consider the proposal here to send it to the unclaimed department at the state or whatever it's called, we table it and ask Donna to be here. There may be reasons why that's not feasible, or it's expensive, or...
I can't imagine after, 2 years, that anybody would go looking for it, first of all. Unless they happen to stop by the fair booth, if you send it to the state deal to even look it up. That would be the only time I've ever looked for any money that I may have unclaimed, and I've never found anything, but just out of curiosity.
Cost and time to send that,
Yeah,
to do all of this, I don't think is worth it.
And that's the other side of it. I was gonna say, what it's gonna cost the county to do it.
How about we address it informally then? Commissioner Weitzel, why don't you talk to the clerk, and then we can discuss, and if it's worth putting on the agenda again, we throw it on again. Is that fair?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Make a motion. Nobody's stopping you.
Vote it up or vote it down. I move to approve the
County clerk's recommendation.
county clerk's recommendation to cancel certain county warranty checks that are 2 years old.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Parks. I think we've discussed the matter. Okay.
I think you can come back here and next go around, make those.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel?
No.
Commissioner Friesen?
It'd still be good to hear from the clerk.
Yeah.
We want to talk to her and bring that back. Item 7F. I'm really leery about having a lot of discussion because I don't know if anybody's prepared to do this.
It's a very, very narrow thing.
Can I, very briefly, because I understand your concern, let me just set this, in 2020, there was a CUP permit for a two-phased project. Mark Van Ochen's here. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these details. And the planning commission at the time, who worked very hard and really try and balance all the interests, included several conditions, recommended conditions on the CUP, but one of them is the second sentence in number 2 of the conditions, if you find it, talks about requiring all security cameras that are installed on the property to be aimed so that they don't record a residential structure. And go up. The only when it, there you go, the top to bottom of that page. So, interview Commissioner Weitzel asked me about that, and I had not read it because it was from 2020. I do think that he has a good point that that's not probably legally enforceable to tell them as to what they can and can't record from there. So if you guys did approve the staff submission, I would just ask you to make a note that you would approve it without that requirement going forward.
So we're talking about this item 3?
No, the second sentence on 2 that gets down to the point of telling the property owner that they can't record off the property, and that's just probably beyond the scope of the plan.
Why did they want to do that?
Well, you might catch your vehicle in that video versus somebody walking over a fence, for one.
Mark
If you're
Barnett,
talking about
County
security.
Clerk. Quite honestly, Commissioner, I believe it's just an oversight on staff's part and also the planning commission. I don't think the intent was to place that on there. It was mentioned in the staff report, and so it just needs to be removed. Typically, we will have conditions of approval on lightings, especially in a situation like this where it's in a residential neighborhood, so you don't have bright lights shining on people's houses, but that was added, and honestly, it was just an oversight, so If we just remove that as well, I think that would be perfectly fine.
Okay, you want to make a motion to approve as, with that stricken?
Which one are you leaving off? The last sentence on 2?
Yeah, all security cameras shall be directed as to not include any residential structure.
So the motion would be to approve the case 2020-07 with the second sentence in item 2 struck.
Yes. Yes, and I will make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Commissioner Weitzel makes the motion, Commissioner Bogner seconds. Good find.
Yeah.
Good job. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Bogner?
Yes.
Commissioner Weitzel?
Yes.
And Commissioner Friesen?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we did 7G already. That was Seth, Dewey. Monthly reports.
Have the monthly reports in the packet from Aging, Appraiser, Automotive, the County Clerk, Communications, Community Corrections, the District Attorney, and Emergency Management. And you got these in the packet. Wanted to see if you had any questions about anything they said, and I guess for future, just are these still, especially for the new commissioners, the format, are these useful?
Yeah, I think they're useful. I mean, me personally, I would like people here more often, just because not so much for the fact, but other than it's good to hear from people and in person as opposed to getting a written report, and then they can kind of, like he did today, highlight some of the things they're doing in their department in a public setting. And so I mean, people do listen to these meetings, whether we like it or not, and I think it's good for people to understand some of the things that the county are doing. So I mean, that would be my preference, but I also understand these people are busy as well. So,
and that's where we do have every director, every department will be here at least once a year. That's why we call them the annual report. They used to do it more often. Now we've gone to monthly paper reports, but then once a year, all of them will get up in front of you to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, it was a little cumbersome when, I like the format today where they're here at least once a year, and we have the right to call them in at any time.
Right.
And just for reference, there's 17 departments in addition to the administration, but I'm here every meeting, so there's 17 different people we try to schedule throughout the year. It is cumbersome. Another item I have in my notes is, find my papers, the holiday dinner that, I know it's kind of early, but we're already planning. So if we use Carriage Crossing again, we really need to let them know, I think by April, or notice by May, about the costs. So in the past, the county commission it's commission discretionary funds, I think it's $20,000 in the budget. We use that line item to once a year pay for a holiday dinner around the Christmas time, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and Carriage Crossing caters it. We invite all the employees. We'll have it in the courthouse somewhere. You saw this last year. You guys were all invited. And the cost is going to be about $3,700 is what they're estimating for this year. Wanted to see if you guys are still on board with us going ahead to schedule Carriage Crossing to do this for December. And it's about 275 plates. Not every county employee, we have just under 400 employees. Not everyone can make it. They're on different shifts or schedules, but we invite everybody.
Automated this last time, but I think everybody sent us out of town, didn't they? Was that the week?
Yeah.
Damn. I know.
You guys are just now catching that? Why do you think I came back early?
We're slow on the uptake, John. I think it's a great morale booster myself. I think it's a good thing to do.
Most companies do something,
Yeah, they do.
and we're essentially the company.
Yeah, and are any of these people that can't make it people that would want to come and they just were too busy, or the schedule doesn't allow it, or I mean, is there stuff we can do to make it so everybody can come that wants to?
I think it's a mix. I hate to kind of throw it out there, but the other option would be if a gift certificate for people that can't make it for the same type of meal or a pie.
Well, I was thinking about when I worked over here at one of the local businesses, it was a pretty big group, and they would actually, shut down the showroom for a couple hours, and we just had a big note on the door, hey, we're having a, and so like if it's people like at the, my thought is, these people in the treasurer's department, collecting tag or collecting. Kind of remember if we did it at a time where we could shut down an extra hour so they could be there or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, and I think they actually do. The annex does shut down. Yeah. The ones that are hard to reach are people that work in the jail or youth services. They're 24/7. They can't leave. So if they're on a certain shift, unless they come in on their time off, which they can do, but if they're actually working at that moment, they can't leave. So there are a few of those.
Would it make sense to just send a smaller catering service over to the jail and just give them food while they're...
Make them wait.
Yeah, or...
We did a lot of that in the South.
Box lunches type.
I mean, something where on your lunch break you can still participate or something.
Can look at it, yeah.
I agree. I think everybody's in agreement that you should continue this.
And I think the Chiefs thing was really neat too. So for people that are watching, they did a dinner or a potluck type deal for when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and I thought that was great too. And so I think more stuff like that is excellent. And so
yeah, and thanks for stopping by and dropping some things off. That was a hit.
I didn't have time to spend lunch, but I did have time to bring some stuff by. So.
Yeah, that was very appreciative.
That one too for some reason. I don't know why I couldn't make it.
Okay.
Well, whatever you do, you got that many people, you are going to have conflicts. It's never going to be 100%.
Well, and that's all I was saying was, we do everything we can to minimize them, or to give something to people that can't make it.
And we can look at different options to see what we can do, because we want every employee to feel appreciated.
Yeah.
So, the other item I have on here, I wanted to bring up.
Does that mean the summer picnic's going to be at the Partington Ranch?
There's not room.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now. I'm kidding.
Okay. So International City County Managers Association, which is what I'm a member of, but they have a partnership with a company called Cope Notes. I may have mentioned it in one of my weekly reports that it's of what it is, Cope Notes. It's a daily mental health support system, and it's a subscriber-based service that if a business or a community, county, city, chooses to offer subscriptions, we'd pay a monthly fee based on the number of subscriptions. What it does is anyone that signs up, so say we had 300 for Reno County just to see how it worked, and we paid $12,000 a year. People that signed up, so if I signed up on my phone, every day I'm going to get an inspirational or an uplifting text message. It's really just to try to continue to work on mental health in the community. Saline County does this. I've talked with them. They're happy with it. Forget the number that they have, but they did a survey about a year, 9 months after they started it, because they started it last year about this time, and there were people on there saying, this really has changed my outlook. This really has improved my overall health, which we may not think about it being, because it is a very simple task to get a text message, but it really does help people. I mentioned this to Carla, the health director, and to Helen, the HR director. Carla took it to Horizons and mentioned it to them. They would be interested in a partnership with the county. They would help pay for some of it. They think it's a great idea. I was also told that there may be other nonprofits or organizations in the community that would want to partner and help maybe split a little bit of that bill. I'm bringing it to you to see if this is something to even go down that path, to get maybe a quote and bring it back and see what partners we could have. And if it costs the county a little bit of money, you know, and when I say a little bit, I'm thinking like $5,000 to $10,000, not a huge amount with the size of budget we have. But if you guys are on board or want government to stay out of it. And you don't have it doesn't have to be a decision today. I just wanted to bring it up, kind of throw it out there on the table.
So to be kind of more open with some other partners, it would be more open to public access, not just county.
Yeah, it would not be just for the employees. Employees could do that. This is any citizen in Reno County. But you can't obviously do it for 62,000 people. We couldn't afford that, but
right.
If we set an amount, say it's 300, 500, and see we only pay for the people that sign up.
This is for county employees.
No, this is for citizens. This is anyone in the county. It's to really help community mental health.
I'd say it's worth investigating to
Yeah.
see how many are interested.
Information forward to all of us on that?
Yeah, I can.
So we could go to look and see. And what'd you say the organization was?
COPE Notes, COP Notes.
I mean, you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's out there on the website. I'm not sure what their web page is, but if you just type in COPE Notes, you'll find their website. It has a little brochure and it talks about how it works and the pricing and partners.
Yes, it might be good to get, so a resident can subscribe, and it might be good to see what Saline County, what percentage they have as far as residents subscribing.
Yeah, because I think they had 300 or something, but I can get more information from them.
If they had 300, it seems like a charitable organization might be better suited to offer that. But we could partner in some way. I think the consensus here is we need more information.
Yeah, I just was kind of throwing it out there to kind of take your temperature, so to speak. That's all I have for my reports.
Commission reports. Commissioner Bogner, you have anything?
Well, about the only thing I was kind of disappointed in, and to make it a part of public record, is it's our philosophy to keep business here in Reno County, and department heads have been very good about it, as far as I can tell. But when the local newspaper makes a statement about some of our purchases that were purchased in other parts of the state, the Moore deal, I know it's trivial, but they're saying it was bought in Hope, Kansas. The truth is, there was only 5 vendors that put forth a bid. 3 of them right here in the city of Hutchinson, South Hutchinson. The other one was a Reno County business that, in my part of the world down there, you may have a phone exchange from one city, address from another city, and you're a resident of Reno County getting a jury summons from Sedgwick County because you got a Sedgwick County address. Well, that business is that way, the winning business. The other business is 2 miles across the line that I know his business well enough. He does a lot of business with companies here in Reno County in the city of Hutchinson. All regional. And the paper quoted that, well, like our purchase of the heavy equipment, we don't have anybody in Reno County. That would have been Sedgwick County, and that's where we did it. But the truth of it is, those were all essentially bids from this county and this area. And to top it off, the two low bids were of the same brand, and they're manufactured here in Kansas. That might have been why they were the low bid, who knows? But bottom line is, I just want to reassure the people that our staff and our department heads are really trying to keep business local, keep our dollars local. And I know it's trivial, but it just makes us look bad when we're, when that isn't how we operate.
Thank you, Commissioner Bogner. Commissioner Parks?
Not a whole lot, other than gain some new insight perspective from the Quad County meeting yesterday, especially when our chairman left. But
That's when it really got real, huh?
yeah, no, not really. There wasn't much left anyway. But no, I thought it was a great meeting, and it was, of course, my first meeting to attend to that, and I just such a lot of great information. It's interesting to draw the comparisons between counties, no matter the size. The issues seem to be the same, larger or small, but we're all in the same battle fighting some of these things. But a good interface with people, I think, so it's a good thing to do.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurst?
Randy and I attended the K-96 Corridor Development Association, and good discussion, and kind of the same what Randy was looking at was a discussion amongst us to see what other counties are doing, to see where the bank representative on the board sees interest rates and the potential, and how much things have slowed down with regard to borrowing and et cetera, and to see where she thought the future would go. Here again, we had Sedgwick County there, and Colwich, and Mount Hope, and Mays, and Haven representative, and Reno County. The other one was the meeting Friday night with on the table a film documentary. It was very interesting. It was I thought pretty well attended from what I thought could have attended was, and it gave an idea on a different concept in my thinking of what we consider food insecurity being. And so I think there's a lot of work doing with that. And the other item I had was it's kind of a little similar to bringing up a couple of Senate bills. And did everyone get that email from Kansas Association of Counties regarding these two bills? The one that really bugged me was bad legislation, as far as I'm concerned, is SB 252 that provides for exemptions from property tax and sales tax for certain businesses competing against government entities. And the reason I'm only talking about this is because if there's any public out there, they need to know about the consequences of this. Specifically, all real property owned and operated by a business that is used for child care centers, entertainment, exercise, health club, recreation, or restaurant purposes, and is located within a city where there is at least one facility owned or operated by a government entity that competes against the business. Such competing activity by the government entity began after the business started using the real property for qualifying purposes, and such competing facility owned or operated, that's competing facility by a government entity, is exempt from property or ad valorem taxes, then the competing business would be sales tax and property tax exempt also. Now, this is definitely somebody's lobbying ability to get this on the agenda at all. And it's just like one person, one lobbying can kill that bill even for a hearing that would have saved our county $57,000. This is absolutely ridiculous, and the people need to know that if this bill passes both houses and is signed by the government, then how much ad valorem taxes is this county and every county and city going to lose? If they lose this, then we're either going as a commission or as a governing body, you're either gonna have to cut services or raise taxes. So we hope this will never even get anywhere, but.
And then you gotta add in the part that the taxes that you're not getting, or you can't tax, the value of those properties. About the only thing that's left is the private homes.
That's about it.
Well,
It's-
but this is only if we are directly competing with private citizens and we're not paying property taxes on our own buildings. So, I mean, one easy way would be for, if the county opens up, a pen business, then the county has to pay taxes on that pen business, and that would make it more competitive anyway. But from what I understand with that business, and the only reason I'm saying something here is because I've been against government competing with private individuals for a very, very long time. I think I brought it up in a couple of different meetings. Because government, it will always be cheaper because A, if we need more money, we just tax the citizens more. And B, because we don't have to pay things like property taxes and stuff when we offer something. And so I think that's the heart behind this bill, is to keep the government, and this is only, so like if I've got, a gym, and then the government decides later to open up another gym, then that's where this comes in. It doesn't come in if the government has a gym and then I come in and open one up, if that makes sense. And so I guess I don't have as big a problem with that, but just for that reason, I don't think the government should be competing with private citizens, especially with a new venture.
I think this, I see what you're getting at. I think this, though, is based primarily it could actually really hurt our ability to operate efficiently and with the same tax base that we have. You can look at things like exercise center. And I think this was what was brought about because the anti-YMCA versus, and I think this is a bad bill. And, the people need to understand, I think, that one thing I got out of that book upstream was we need to look at what we can do to have, if we have a problem, let's look up and see how we can stop that problem. With the cost we're paying for shelter, cost for crimes, cost for drugs, we need to plan ahead so we can see if we can't stop some of this or at least hinder it.
Thank you.
Believe it or not.
Mr. Weitzel.
So the gentleman that came in here today and spoke about rural emergency services, I've heard that from more than him on here, and you know me, I don't like to spend any money, but I think that's a place that's very important to spend money. And I was talking to one lady who I believe it was her husband had a heart attack, and the local fire department tried to help her, but by the time the ambulance got there, it was too late. And so I think having these emergency services out in these other towns is very important, even if it's a money-losing deal. And so so I hope we can help with that, because I know I went to college in a town that was in the middle of nowhere, and we had a volunteer rescue squad there, and it was a lot of the professors that signed up, and they'd you'd be in the middle of a physics class, and all of a sudden his radio would go off, and he was running, and they got a call. And so what these people do is tremendous, and they do save lives, and so I think that's very, very important. Also spoke with this week the sheriff's office, and their desire to move forward with the shooting range. And one thing I didn't realize that he brought up there was that they currently don't have a facility to train in. If they're training, they're using other people's facilities. And so I know we've got a grant, and so, that we're looking at possibly getting paid for some of that, or potentially all that, but, based on what they told me, they really need to get started, even if we do lose some grant money, to get something there so we can train, because the last thing we want is our police officers to not get the training that they think they need, because, and this is what I brought up to them, we shouldn't have police officers that get less training than what it takes to open a hair salon. If you open a hair salon and to get licensed there, it takes 2 years, Our police should be able to get training of at least that caliber as well. And so I'm very, very much in favor of them getting started on that. Other than that, I thought this was going to be a short meeting when I looked at the agenda. And so
I think a lot of that sheriff's department goes hand in hand with being preemptive in your talking point there, Commissioner Hurst. And I visited with Darren on a couple of occasions, and I think we have to be really proactive with some young ones. That's where you're going to nip it. And I hope that could develop into something out there when it's built and facilitated, that it could do a great job in the community as well, in the county. So
I appreciated Doug Smith coming in today. If I might add one more thing, is you talk about the EMS deal, and not going to get into too much detail, but when Hutchinson has to bring in, they're short of ambulances due to whatever, they bring in the ambulance out of out of Arlington, and then Pretty Prairie has to cover that district. Fortunately, Pretty Prairie has enough personnel, and they're very well qualified, but you're looking at a big area to cover when they have to bring that ambulance in, and ambulances again cost $300,000 if you can get them a year and a half from now.
Well, and other of our ambulances are actually, like I know Haven, if you're in that school district and everything, even though that might be the closest town, they'll get dispatched or they'll get called before the actual people who should be. What do you do? How they're people from your community.
They work together.
That's always tough with the ambulances, and you get called out to cross the line pretty regular, especially when you're sat in the corner like we were with Haven. And it happens, and then you're short.
But I do think there's going to be opportunity to have a conversation about EMS in our fire district discussions, and I still think it's worth a conversation about some consolidated fire EMS service in the middle of western Reno County that supports that whole area and staffed by full-time people. So, good comments. I wanted to make a comment on the consent agenda. I do agree that we're still trying to find the stride as to what is best on the consent agenda, and we don't necessarily like pulling things out of the agenda. So Randy and I will continue to work on that. I think, we did have just a brief conversation about a few things that could be dropped early, items that may be on the consent agenda that you could review and then provide feedback if, you don't think they should be, so we can, I think there was some thought to drop everything at once for organizational purposes, but we may start just dropping things early and then, maybe drop the whole thing again when it's all ready, but just previewing stuff earlier, so.
I think it's up to us as commissioners to investigate those things that administration thinks can be handled really easy and is already pretty well approved. I think that our administrator is available for conversations, that we just need to take our time to go in and learn about these before the commission meeting.
Well, and I did, both those items that I requested to pull out, I did contact them ahead of time, but by then the agenda was already dropped because we don't get the agenda early. And so,
Yeah, but if you've discussed that, even if it's on the agenda, unless you think it's highly important that the whole commission look at it, that discussion on education come about before the meeting, and we don't have to pull it out. That's my thought.
And I would say it's not a big deal. Now that we're 5 commission, I think we can have some conversations. I was a little surprised on a couple of things that you suggested this morning, and I think anybody in chair, you should try to, copy the chair on things that are maybe agenda changes. It wasn't a big deal today, but I think it's a format if we can, whoever's the chair in the future, if you're wanting agenda changes. Because I didn't know the health department was going to be here and some other things. Maybe I missed an email from you.
No, Seth was here because the testimony that Commissioner Weitzel added to the agenda, I was going to address that in my report. So,
and it worked fine today. It's just, I've had meetings where, what you think is an easy agenda change, all of a sudden gets out of control. And so, in 11 years at the city of Bueller, I learned that the hard way, running a meeting, that, you just need to be prepared for what's coming. So, but it worked fine today, so.
and we are allowed to email with each other saying, as long as we're discussing about the agenda, but not anything related with the agenda, right? Like for example, if I said, hey, I'd like that pulled out of the consent agenda, I can email him and say that, but as long as I don't say why. And that may be something you have to look up.
Yeah, it's a good question. I was gonna, the whole topic of emailing and how much to email is just sensitive right now, because I might send you guys an article that the Kansas Government Ethics Commission got rung up for a violation because they were emailing too much, and some of the things they were emailing were beyond what you're discussing, but we just do want to be careful with it. But usually my understanding of the COMA and the meetings, it's usually limited to the timing of the meeting is a pretty safe discussion, because you can't really figure out when if you're doing a special, you have to send a meeting out to say, hey, can we meet on Tuesday? That's safe. I'll have to think about agenda topics though.
Yeah, but it's 2 commissioners can talk about anything we want.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of a serial conversation, right?
If you've talked to Andy and then I send you an email and copy you on it, and it's the same subject matter.
And it has to,
Yeah. So if you're saying, can I request an addition to the agenda by email, you can.
Well, if he's talking to Randy about, hey, wanting something changed on the consent agenda, the chair is helpful, hey, we got commissioners that are having issues with what's on the consent agenda, because we're working on that. So just being in that loop, I don't.
You talk to one person.
Yeah, maybe I think maybe it'd be better suited if Randy sent you that information.
Well, you can do whatever you want. Patrick, I'm challenging you here because I don't understand why you would have any concern with two-way communication between 2 commissioners only. When would that ever violate?
If a third one also emailed you with the same thing, not realizing you'd spoken.
No, that's not, he can email me something on the agenda item, you can email me something on the agenda item. It's when I connect you to him and make that a serial conversation.
I think part of my caution is just making sure I don't say something that's misinterpreted by because
well, maybe next meeting you can bring there's a 3-step check on what classifies an open meeting.
You can solve all of that by the commissioner going to Randy and Randy going to the chairman. Simple.
Which is generally what we've been doing.
Yeah, and I forgot, Commissioner Friesen, I forgot to get you the one that Commissioner Weitzel mentioned.
No problem. You guys do whatever you're comfortable with. I sent an item on our meeting times out, and I did send that to Randy, and he sent it out to you guys.
Yes.
I was, thought that'd be on the agenda, but I missed it, so I just,
You mean with the change of date?
yeah. What's the feedback on that? The context is Patrick wears two hats, one here, one at Barton County, and originally they had accommodated our need for Tuesday, and they've moved to Wednesday. They've had some complications with their chair and some other things related to Wednesday. They'd like the Tuesday slot. They meet every week. Asked if we could accommodate that by going Monday or Wednesday.
You had mentioned not starting that until what, later in the year? Midsummer or something like that was kind of thrown out in the email, I think?
In my weekly report, when I was, giving you the background, because we have certain people scheduled, like budget presentations, different things, still in the first and second quarter of the year, if you're going to make a change, it'd be preferred that you wait until summertime and then make the change. That way we can get the scheduling correct instead of trying to reschedule everyone right now.
What is their urgency, I mean, as far as time frame?
He didn't say.
I don't think that's urgent. I mean, it puts me in the middle, so I hate this whole conversation. They were initially, they're like, yeah, we'll move to Wednesday, that won't bother us. Then they've had some complications with people's schedule, new commissioners just like you guys. And also their newspaper locally doesn't go, they have a lot of weekly papers. I don't think any paper goes out daily in there, so that kind of has thrown them a curveball unexpectedly. But the other question is just how important it is to, no one had ever asked the question about when you guys wanted to meet, because, you can meet whenever you want to. So I guess is this the best time for you guys to meet? When you guys want to do it?
I'd say anywhere you're at, Mondays are always Mondays. Everything's accumulated from the weekend, and we got guys working at other jobs. A Monday morning would probably be, at Mondays.
Actually, that's the slower time where I'm at, so I'm good with Mondays, yeah. And typically that would be that way, but yeah.
I thought one compromise, if Monday was better, they do it at like 12 or 1.
Yeah.
And then, and then we could just.
Because, the business side of it, Monday is horrible, I get you, but for my business.
It's typically only 3 hours long anyway, so they get us out about 5.
I think one thing, if we'd go, like you suggested, to think about was if we go at noon, people could take a noon hour off and come in and make comments. They wouldn't have to miss 15 minutes of work or 30 minutes.
Watch us eat our Wendy's. Watch us eat our Wendy's burger, I'm just kidding.
Noon would be very difficult because I'd have to get off at 11:30 and then come here for the meeting and then maybe go back. And I mean, if we can do it in the morning so I don't have to count the morning travel time, or in the afternoon to where I don't have to count the afternoon travel time, that would be much better for my schedule. Or, even doing it at 5 o'clock one day and, then anybody from the community can come in and watch and they wouldn't have to be worried about being work, but.
It's too complicated to get everybody here in that evening meeting, I think, because you have lots of people doing extra hours to get people here in the evening.
Would Wednesday morning, does that work for everyone? I mean, I know on kind of talking with each commissioner, emails or whatever, that wasn't really mentioned. There were different Monday times, but what about Wednesday? It's the middle of the week, it kind of chops up the week for staff, but Monday wouldn't be much different, so.
You guys are all working, I can make it work.
I'll make it fit, whatever.
We have to name it Hump Day something, though, if we go Wednesday. I don't know what, so.
Careful what you say.
I can do either one of them, but if it was Monday, I'd rather be the afternoon, so.
Well, and that will work with staff, won't it?
Wednesday, yeah.
I guess Wednesday or Tuesday, you're pulling them out one day or the other.
Yeah, it just takes scheduling and readjusting.
How about this? It sounds like the best option is Wednesday. Process through it, and let's just put it as an agenda item for 2 weeks, and, look through your calendars and see.
Well, that's the other thing. You want to know far enough in advance when the change was going to happen.
Okay.
So you start getting your personal schedules. Like, I don't do much on Tuesdays and stuff because I know that's
Yeah.
kind of, what I'm saying. Give us a lead time, and it sounds like you're going to already got people coming in, so it will give us some lead time if we decide to do this.
You can decide when, if we want to change, you can decide how far down the road, right? That's administration.
I think maybe Randy, you want to reach out to their administrator and just see how urgent it is? Kind of tell them what you've got on the docket.
Tell them we said no.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just keep talking about it. Reminder, because we had doubled up here, we're gonna have 2 weeks off. Be back in
28th.
28th.
And I will be at the Veterans Room. We don't have the furniture, but with advanced voting for some of the special elections, this room's not available on the 28th. So we will be over in the courthouse down in the Veterans Room.
Well, how far away are we from using that room permanently?
Probably April. We were thinking we would get some of the stuff this month or early April, so we're pretty close.
With nothing else, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.